is going viral on X. And she's asking, why is it that only 27% of Black women are married in America? Now, people have come up with all different types of reasons, and I will show you an expose that I saw years ago on ABC, where they spoke to Black women who were professionals who were struggling, I guess, to find, a husband.
Black men are in crisis. We start hearing that they're gay or that they're snow bunnied or that they are in prison. There's not enough of them who are marriageable. So she's going to go down the laundry list. But the whole premise of this entire conversation is Black men are in crisis. That is the foundational starting point.
And even though that was years ago, I'm going to show you that just to show you how, once again, this subject has come back up again in the US. And at the end of the day, I'm going to tie it all to math, because I, for one, don't believe that men are just sitting back and they're like, I do not find Black women physically attractive. Everybody has like their type, right? But I don't like that. I haven't had that experience. I don't think that's what this is really about. I think a lot of this comes to basic math. Now, this is the video that is going viral. We're going to go ahead and bring it in here, because once again, this subject is back in the headlines.
26% of Black women today in America, at least, are married. 26%. There's a reason for that. And it goes down to perceptions we have about marriage. Submission is seen as, but submission is seen as some old patriarchal, domineering, disrespectful, oppressive idea. So they get in these marriages and they want to box with their husbands as soon as they don't agree. They don't want to yield. They want to do their own thing. They want to remain single in marriage. And that doesn't work very well. Because like I said, at the end of the day, no man wants to feel like they're married to somebody who's competitive or who's their competition. And that's what this is looking like. It looks really bad. It's really bad. Okay, so now I want to bring up, to continue this point, I want to bring up another clip that I saw of her giving advice to the younger generation. Then we're going to break that down.
So we pause it here. So this is the video that's giving people like vibes. And people are seeing this and they're like, is this real? Is that number true? So the number has changed over the years. I'm going to show you the difference. First and foremost, many people will ask, has that been your experience? That has not been my experience. However, I do have friends that have had that as part of their experience. And as I told you earlier, I do not believe that the majority, the number one reason is, people just don't find Black women physically attractive and da-da-da. That is not what I believe. I believe a lot of this comes down to simple math. When you look at a person's certain type, right? Black women, the studies show Black women are more likely to choose to date or to marry. Let's go with marry. They're more likely to choose to marry a Black man more than any other group.
This is a great point. So yes, Black men do marry out at a higher rate, but it is not a apples to apples comparison, because basically men control access to marriage. Men generally are the ones who are expected to still propose. And so one of the arguments made is that Black women are so loyal to Black men, and that is why they have not married white men. But that is a false premise, because again, men are the one who actually propose. And one of the issues that some of my research that I shared in some of the previous videos showed was that perceptions about Black femininity are still very negative when it comes to other races and their perceptions of Black women. And so that could be a reason that we don't see Black women marrying out to white men or other races as much, not because they don't want to, but because some of these men of other races still have negative perceptions about Black women as far as them being a wife material. So that could be the reason why you see the marriage rate being less for Black women, not because there's lack of desire, but perhaps there's just lack of options.
They're more likely to choose to marry a Black man more than any other group. But do the numbers reflect that?
According to that data, and to be clear, it pulled from about 1 million online users who are on sites such as Llke and other online dating profiles. It also included in-person interviews. Based upon that data, it showed that women across the board of multiple races, they responded first to white men. White men were their primary preference, and then second was men of their own race. That's what I was saying. And yes, that is including Black women. More specifically, Black women had a preference for white men first, according to this online data, and then secondarily, they had a preference for Black men. That's what I'm saying. Check it out. Check out the book. I referenced it, written by 2 sociologists, just published, I think about a year or 2 ago. Very interesting and very relevant.
So I'm gonna take you back to this segment on ABC. This is really interesting, right? I saw this on TV when it came out. Now, this is like over 15 years ago? 42% of Black women are unmarried. Check this out.
It's just not that easy. For starters, there are more Black women than Black men.
The same is true for women of all races. That's not really a point.
1.8 million more. So even if every Black man in America married a Black woman today, 1 out of 12 still wouldn't make it down the aisle. Let's take 100 Black men. If you eliminate those without a high school diploma, those without a job, and the number of Black men between the ages of 25 and 34 who are incarcerated, that leaves only about half of Black men eligible to pop the question.
Okay, another popular talking point. Black men are in prison. There's not enough of them around. Yada, 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 yada. There's problems and all that. Y'all know the drill. So this was debunked again years ago. Let me share this with you guys real quick. Some sources for you guys to check out. The myth that there are more Black men in prison than in college, debunked in one chart. This is kind of talking about how, look, we're having these conversations about, all these Black men are in prison, but you have more of them in college than in prison. Vox talks about this. There's other sources. Again, I linked this to the in the description box, but really, this talking point is kind of been debunked.
let's go back to those numbers. Now, this was 15 years ago. And this is what I've been trying to explain to people. If you go back to what I said before, right, that
half of black men
54% eligible. So if you go back to what I said in the beginning, that black women, most black women are more likely to marry a black man. Okay. Now think about the numbers that they just gave you.
Now, of course, there's a lot of people who are going to push back to that, right? There's stats that say the majority of black men are at least in the middle class, if not higher. Yeah, I think it's over 50% of black men today, right, of marrying age are single and childless, and in the middle class. And so, just from a strictly monetary standpoint, there's an argument that says, no, we're not, like, we're fine. We are fine. Meanwhile, however, let's just say everything she said is true. Let's just forget about what black men have achieved economically. Let's forget about where they're at. Let's forget about their socioeconomic status in comparison to black women. Let's just forget about that and assume that black men are in crisis. Do you mean to tell me that black women are not? Black women really are not in crisis? And this is what happens, right? We start with the stats. Oh, there's more black women starting businesses. Okay, well, there's more black women going to college. Okay, there's more black women fill in the blank. But it's like, okay, again, just because, first of all, more women of all races are in college than men. So that's like a mute point. Second of all, yes, black women are some of the most enrolled, but also some of the most in debt. There was I shared this in a video a couple of months ago, right, where it talked about how black women, they were getting more degrees and also having a higher amount of debt. And it was taking them a lot longer to pay it off in comparison to other races of women. Not to mention that about 1/3 of women are like out or below the poverty line, according to black demographics, the last that I checked. And so the problem that I have with these conversations just of black men being in crisis is that assumes that black women aren't. They're born in the same household, coming up under the same parents, under the same single mothers, under the same whatever.
So this is including, there's more black women than there are black men. Then you have to remove those who are already married.
When I was 12 years old, my friends all were growing faster than me. My mom took me to a growth specialist. They said you weren't eating properly. The options were either growth hormone injections or conventional nutrition shakes. We had this book that had a page on the ingredients that no kid should ever consume. And I look at the bottle that my doctor gave me, all the ingredients the book said don't consume were in this conventional nutrition shake.
As a mother, it was my biggest fear that Eden will have problem with growing.
When Eden first came to me with the idea to create True Height, it was a no-brainer. There's so many kids who shared his struggles growing up, and we're determined to make a better future for those kids.
Almost every time parents ask me, how tall do you think they're going to be? It is the question that comes.
Those who are already taken. Don't forget the prison and industrial complex. I've talked about this before on the show, the school to prison pipeline. So that's two. Some people marry people in prison, but most people don't. Let's just be real.
What's going on with black women? What's going on with black women? I want to turn your attention to the new Jane Crow, women's mass incarceration, which is specifically dealing with the rising rate of incarceration among black women. I know she talked about there being exponentially more, let's see if I can find this, women who are incarcerated, or exponentially more black men who are incarcerated than black women, with respect to the other populations. Let me see, there's this one part in particular I want to highlight. Let me see. So in this whole point, the whole purpose of this basically is actually break down how, case in point, you're starting to see more black women go into prison. There's a rising rate, and this is just women in general, they're starting to see more of an increase. But of course, surprise, surprise, this is exponentially or uniquely impacting black women the most. So this is one section of the article. Here it says, for example, the U.S. Department of Justice reports that the rate of incarceration for black women is 113,400,000, more than twice that of white females. The data is even more troublesome for young black women in their late teens and early adulthood, as they are 5 times more likely to be incarcerated than their white counterparts. So if you want to talk about there being a exponentially higher rate of black men in prison with respect to other populations, the same can be said for black women.
Then you have to think about those who just don't want to be married and they want to be bachelors like forevers. It is what it is. That's 3. Then you also have to remove those who are not straight. Like, so you have to remove black men that are LGBTQ, right?
Okay, so let's start with the black men are gay. This is something that I've heard time and time again. There's too many gay black men, there's too many down low black men, so that just removes them from the population. Again, what is missing from that conversation is, okay, well, what percentage of black women are gay or queer or bisexual? So you mean to tell me that every single black woman is heterosexual, but only black men are gay? Y'all see what I'm saying? And so a lot of the talking points that I think we're gonna hear in this video as we move forward can literally be applied to women, and sometimes even more so. Let me show you a source just to kind of give you guys some context if we really want to get into who is what. If we want to do the whole who's they're gay, yada yada. This was shared back in 2019, and trust me guys, there are many sources. This is just one of many sources. This one says 23% of young black women now identify as bisexual. So if you want to talk about queerness, LGBTQ, same gender loving, black women are not excluded from that. If anything, they're arguably embracing the lifestyle more so than black men. So, reading a little bit, it says, since 1972, social scientists have studied the General Social Survey to chart the complexities of social change in the United States. Let me move forward. It says, in the 10 years of the General Social Survey has included a question on sexual identity, rates of identification among gay men, lesbian women, and bisexual men in the U.S. haven't changed much. Bisexual identifying women, on the other hand, account for virtually all of the growth among those who say they're lesbian, gay, or bisexual. Of all the women who responded to the 2018 survey, more than 1 in 18 identified as bisexual. 1 decade ago, only 1 in 65 did. So basically what it's saying is the amount of gay men, let me see. Yeah, it says that amount of gay men, lesbian women, and bisexual men hasn't changed much. But there has been a huge growth among those who are basically among women, right, when it comes to identifying as being bisexual. Then it goes to break it down here a little bit more specifically. It says by 2018, a few years ago, we wrote about how approximately 18% of young Black women identified as lesbian or bisexual in the 2016 General Social Survey sample. This rate was more than 2 times higher than for white women or other racial groups, and almost 4 times higher than for men of any racial group. Let me repeat this. It says the rate was more than 2 times higher than for white women, and almost 4 times higher than for men of any other racial group. So if we really want to talk about, getting in the nitty-gritty of who is LGBTQ, who is queer, based upon the evidence, we're seeing it is women who are really embracing their lifestyle so much more. And so the problem that I have with this Black men are gay narrative is that it always assumes that all these women are just completely straight, that they're not on the spectrum, that they're not bisexual. And what we are actually seeing, what some of the different research is suggesting, is that not only are women more quick to embrace different sexual orientations, it is actually growing among women. It is especially growing among Black women. Granted, this is just one survey, right? But there are plenty more out there. So this is just one. Let me share something else for you guys, and then we're going to continue. If you want to get into the whole Black men are gay, yada 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 yada. Let's here's another one, because I wanted to bring a little bit of research for you guys. This one is when the rainbow is not enough. This is blackcensus.org. So it just looks at the community as it relates to Black people and specifically. I want to go briefly into this one part because I think this is important. If we scroll right down here and it says Black census respondents by sexual orientation, we see lesbian 3%. We see gay 3%. What that's essentially saying is that based upon this research, it's saying that the percentage of lesbian and gay men are pretty close based upon the census. And again, if you really want to get into the nitty gritty, here's about 17 pages here. I have the sources actually linked in the description. But case in point, if we want to say that Black men are gay, Black women are gay too. Or there is an equal amount of Black women who are gay to actually go along with that, if not arguably more so. So again, a lot of these talking points that I said we're going to go over can actually be applied the other way around, which means it's null and void. But let's continue.
So the number, think about everything I just said. The number is going to continue to decrease of the men that are available to you. So you're working with a smaller pool. That's why I say a lot of this is basic math. Now, some people see this and they'll say, oh, well, Sabby, what do you know? You're married. I am, but I wasn't always married. Somebody say, oh, Sabby, what do you know? You're not married to a Black guy. No, I'm not. But again, I wasn't always married. Once upon a time, I did date. So keep that in mind. Now we're going to go in a little bit more in this segment because I want you to see the women that they sit down and they talk to. All of these women have professional jobs, very smart. And I want you to hear some of the things that they say. Again, this was 15 years ago, and you tell me if this still holds true today.
And eligible to pop the question. Nicole sees the problem every day.
It is sad to see that the majority of the defendants that we prosecute are Black males. Those numbers can be very disappointing.
You mean to tell me for a Pookie, there isn't this? We got the Gorillas, we got the Sukiyanas of the world, that culture is being fed and funded. They have millions of followers. So don't act like, because what she's describing is a Pookie and Ray Ray, but don't act like Pookie and Ray Ray don't have a counterpart. Don't act like they ain't got Shanae, right? Like, don't act like that don't exist. It obviously does. They're being funded, right? They have followers, they have supporters. You got people out there talking about this one right here. Michael B. Jordan is cute, but he don't have any edge. He just look, I don't know, responsible. He looked like he know where his birth certificate at. That got 14.5 million views. 11.9K retweets, almost 9,000 quotes. Look at the amount of likes. Listen. So again, let's not act like for every Pookie and Ray Ray, there is not. Let's not act like that don't exist. That's also removed from the conversation because again, we want to talk about marriageable Black men. We cannot assume that every woman is marriageable. We cannot. The starting point should not be that the entire female population, all Black women are marriageable. That they're starting from that point. They're not. Like, not everybody is marriage material. Let's let that sink in, okay? I'm done with life, and it's all Jermaine's fault. It's always Jermaine's fault. Okay. All right, everybody. Hello, hello. Happy Thursday. I hope all is well with you guys. Shout out to you. Good to see some of the, hey, what's going on, Demetrius? It's super good to see you. It's been a little minute. So I'm happy to hear from you. Shout out to you, to all my members and all my loyal supporters. I appreciate you. Like, share, subscribe on the way in. I'm going to try to keep this live short. We'll see how well I do, but I wanted to, okay, sorry y'all, give me 1 second. Let me silence my phone. I'm getting all kinds of notifications at this particular moment. Y'all bear with me. Let me see. Let me see. Give me 1 second. Okay. Cupboard stores. Okay, sorry guys. Okay. Anyways, so I wanted to follow up about this whole situation that happened. Obviously, you guys have seen by now the reaction that happened to Sabby Sabs, who's a very, very popular political commentator, and she had some feedback or some things to say with respect to a video of mine that went viral on Twitter about, I guess, something I had to say about relationships. And the backstory is this all happened in reaction to a conversation that Michelle Obama had maybe a few weeks ago on a podcast, right? So this is how this whole thing happened. She went out and was basically talking about marriage and was talking about, she broke silence as to why she didn't talk, basically why she did not attend the inauguration. I went on to respond to that, and I talked about how Michelle Obama, being a former first lady, has a lot of influence, whether you agree with her or disagree with her. She has a lot of influence about essentially how she not only talks about marriage, what basically the message that she's giving off. There are people who are looking up to her. She is a influencer. To a certain regard, she's still a global leader, right? Just because of the position that she held, because she was literally married to the most powerful, or one of the most powerful men in the world at that time, and she still has that, that influence. And so we've seen ever since then, she has this podcast, she's done shows about revolting, she's done shows about, just fighting back, per se, however that means, but she's been basically promoting a lot of feminism. So I did a response to that, and I talked about how what she is doing and what women of her generation who are celebrities, who are positions of power, are doing, the messages it is sending off about Black women, and why precisely it's those kinds of narratives, and it's the kind of influence, and it's the kind of messages that we see coming all the way from our elders downward as to why there are so many Black women who are not married. Right. And so that I had a longer live where I really broke down. If you guys haven't seen it already, you can go check it out. But it all started with my reaction to Michelle Obama and how I believed her rhetoric and the things that she has said about marriage and family, I find to be problematic because the state that the Black family is in. Right. So that was the context. I had a few clips that I posted. I think a few of them went viral, or at least got a lot of traction. And that's one of the ones that Sabby Sabs responded to. And so the video I just shared was maybe about a 3-minute response. I didn't get through the whole video. And so I wanted to dedicate this live to just reacting to a few of the things that were pointed out, because what I actually found to be so interesting is a lot of the different pushback, or a lot of the different conversations that I hear being shared by Black women are ideas that have been going around for decades now, but they're not necessarily true. And here's the thing. Like, there was a time and a place where I believed everything Sabby Sabs would have said. There is a time and a place where everything that she mentioned, right? All the things that you guys have heard, Black men are either in gay or they're DL, they're either in prison or they're basically snowblinder with Becky. That leaves such a minimal pool. Like, I actually believed that at one point in time. I really did. So to a certain extent, one of the reasons I'm very vocal about, pushing back against these things or trying to look a little bit more deeply is because I understand that the programming and the messages have been going on for decades. I can remember as a young girl watching television, watching news, watching special nighttime, basically nighttime specials about Black women having a hard time finding love. As a girl, I remember there's like one memory I have etched in my brain of like, she was like a minister. I don't know if she was in Atlanta, but she was like a big mega pastor who didn't have a man. And the whole series was talking about how they didn't have a man and how hard it was. And some people call it the Black woman curse. And it was a whole series dedicated on how Black women had a hard time finding love. This was years ago. Just a young girl I saw. I remember watching that as a young girl and actually feeling a lot of fear and being like, oh my gosh, is this my destiny? So we've heard this stuff going on for quite some time. And so what was so interesting was to hear someone, to my understanding, who has a lot of political leverage, a lot of political influence. I mean, she's had all kinds of white liberals and well-respected liberals, basically who's who in the left, come on her platform. And I think she's very much respected as an analytical thinker for those in the leftist space. She's respected as someone, I think, who does a lot of, goes out of the way to provide the stats and not just get caught up in narrative. But when I listened to what she had to say, it was literally the narrative that every single Black woman has heard in America since they were a young child. And that is what caused me to believe, yes, some of this stuff I think is just, it's propaganda. Some of it is narrative. And I think there is an aspect of it that is just based upon a legitimate level of misunderstanding. And so that is why that's what I wanted to bring up. Now, with that said, let me see real quick. I think there's one other thing I wanted to mention. Oh, on that too, that's what I wanted to add. I did a premiere. I actually just premiered something earlier today. It was about a 2-hour premiere. And the reason I wanted to do it was that live was a live I think I did maybe a year or two ago on this platform. And it was literally breaking down the exact same talking points, that Black men are gay, that they are snowbunnied or with snowbecky, right? That they are in prison and that there are not enough good Black men. Like, this is literally, I broke it down in detail about maybe a year or two ago. And so it was so fascinating to hear now, fast forward 2025, the exact same talking points being regurgitated to a completely different person who knew nothing about that conversation, who knew nothing about that live, who knew nothing. But it was the exact same talking points. And the video that I started this live off with, I literally took snippets from that live from 2 years ago, and all I did was mash it up with what Sabby Sabs said. Because what I'm saying is, it's like wash, rinse, repeat. It's like we're starting to regurgitate things, and we don't even necessarily recognize that we're doing it, I think, until someone stands up and says, hey, you're believing this, but is it really true? Is it really the numbers, though? Is it really that? Can we really say that all Black women are marriageable? So that's what I want to look at today. And I just wanted to provide you guys some context. While you're here, be sure to like, share, subscribe. What's going on, Dr. Thunder? Good to see you. I know we're back and forth about doing a collab. I look forward to that. It says new backdrop. Oh, no, I'm literally, I guess it looks super white. I'm like literally in the office right now. And it just so happens that the office space I'm in is just completely white. So there you go. There you go. You said oh my gosh. Yes. So, okay. So I just wanted to give you guys a backdrop. So I'm just going to dedicate this live to, I want to finish basically response to Sabby Sabs. I might just play through the first few parts that I already reacted to, and then we will end, or I'll hop in right where I think I ended with the pre-record that I initially did. Okay. So again, guys, if you like what's going on here, like, share, subscribe, show some love on the super chat. And I'm going to play the reaction that Sabby Sabs did to me, and then I'm going to give my feedback. I want to try to finish it in its entirety. Oops. Did I share the wrong one? My bad. Okay, sorry guys. Sorry about that. Okay, let me play this for you.
This video is going viral on X, and she is asking, why is it that only 27% of Black women are married in America? Now, people have come up with all different types of reasons, and I will show you an expose that I saw years ago on ABC, where they spoke to Black women who were professionals, who were struggling, I guess, to find, a husband. And even though that was years ago, I'm going to show you that just to show you how, once again, this subject has come back up again in the US. And at the end of the day, I'm going to tie it all to math, because I, for one, don't believe that men are just sitting back and they're like, I do not find Black women physically attractive. Everybody has like their...
Wait, stop. You're not going to accept that ridiculous offer for your car accident, are you? What do you mean? The insurance company offered me...
Real quick, I wanted to mention here, I will say for myself, I never mentioned attractiveness. I never mentioned attractiveness or anything in my snippet, in my response to Michelle Obama. Like, a Black woman's attractiveness never came up once. So it's interesting that she mentioned that. That wasn't anything that I said, but yes, to be clear, I was not saying that Black women are unattractive, so that's not why they're getting married. I don't really know where that thought came from or where that assumption of hers came from, because it didn't come out of my mouth. Okay, let's continue.
Hype, right? But I don't like that. I haven't had that experience. I don't think that's what this is really about. I think a lot of this comes to basic math. Now, this is the video that is going viral. We're going to go ahead and bring it in here, because once again, this subject is back in the headlines.
26% of Black women today in America, at least, are married. 26%. There's a reason for that. And it goes down to perceptions we have about marriage. Submission is seen as, the submission is seen as some old patriarchal, domineering, disrespectful, oppressive idea. So they get in these marriages and they want to box with their husbands as soon as they don't agree. They don't want to yield. They want to do their own thing. They want to remain single in marriage. And that doesn't work very well. Because like I said, at the end of the day, no man wants to feel like they're married to somebody who's competitive or who's their competition. And that's what this is looking like. It looks really bad. It's really bad. Okay, so now I want to bring up, to continue this point, I want to bring up another clip that I saw of her giving advice to the younger generation.
So we pause it here. So this is the video that's giving people like vibes. And people are seeing this and they're like, is this real? Is that number true? So the number has changed over the years. I'm going to show you the difference. But I gotta say a couple of things before we get into what that number used to look like, right? Because years ago it was 42%, right? So let's talk for a second,
real quick. 42%. The number used to be 42%, right? So it's gone down. The video that she's going to show you from about 15 years ago. At that time, it was only about 42% of Black women who've gotten married. It has only steadily gone down, and it's gone down significantly within the last 15 years. 42% to 15% is actually pretty significant. So I just want to mention that. But also this idea of, well, is that true? Is it true that there's only 27% of Black women who are married? I don't understand why that would be surprising, because I've mentioned this before, marriage, family values per se, more traditional family values, however you want to put it, are not actively promoted in Black American culture. They're not. They're certainly not promoted in media. That's not to say that there aren't individual families and individual communities who still try to, live for that. But Black America has for quite some time had a very, very broken family system, a very broken down family culture. And on top of that, Black women are not encouraged to develop families. That is not what we learn growing up. We are not celebrated for doing that. And we have not been celebrated for doing that for quite some time. So this whole idea of like you grow up in a culture that doesn't celebrate or honor marriage, doesn't promote it, doesn't cultivate, wifely duties, husband duty, doesn't cultivate that kind of interaction, and doesn't cultivate that as being a big desire, we can't be surprised now when you wake up, or a few decades happen, a few generations passes, and you have women who aren't married. Like, we can't be surprised when that doesn't happen, when we don't have a culture that cultivates that. That is a natural byproduct of being in a culture, in a system that basically says, do you, boo? Like, that's the natural byproduct. I mean, feminism was literally talking about marriage being seen as an oppressive regime. Like, that's literally a tenet of feminism. Now, not all feminists believe with that, right? I understand you have more conservative branches of feminism, but there are feminists out there who legitimately see marriage, or the institution of marriage, as connected to a oppressive patriarchal regime. So, like, again, we can't be surprised now when you've had decades of that being programmed and being shoved down the throats of ladies, and then you wake up one day and they're not married. That's like, duh. You know what I mean? So, hey, thank you so much thank you again for the $9.99. I really appreciate you for the support. Thank you so much. Again, guys, if you like what's going on here, like, share, subscribe. And yeah, thank you for the super chat.
That go the money. That go the money.
Okay, so let's continue on this one.
First and foremost, many people will ask, has that been your experience? That has not been my experience. However, I do have friends that have had that as part of their experience. And as I told you earlier, I do not believe that the majority, the number one reason is, oh, people just don't find Black women physically attractive and da-da-da. That is not what I believe. I believe a lot of this comes down to simple math. When you look at a person's certain type, right? Black women, the studies show Black women are more likely to choose to date or to marry. Let's go with marry. They're more likely to choose to marry a Black man more than any other group. But do the numbers reflect that? So I'm going to take you back to this segment on ABC. This is really interesting, right? I saw this on TV when it came out. Now, this is like over what, 15 years ago? 42% of Black women are unmarried. Check this out.
It's just not that easy. For starters, there are more Black women than Black men, 1.8 million more. So even if every Black man in America married a Black woman today, 1 out of 12 still wouldn't make it down the aisle. Let's take 100 Black men. If you eliminate those without a high school diploma, those without a job, and the number of Black men between the ages of 25 and 34 who are incarcerated, that leaves only about half of Black men eligible to pop the question.
Let's go back to those numbers. Now, this was 15 years ago. And this is what I've been trying to explain to people. If you go back to what I said before, right? That
half of Black men,
54% eligible. So if you go back to what I said in the beginning, that Black women, most Black women are more likely to marry a Black man. Okay. Now think about the numbers that they just gave you.
Now, let me say this real quick. Let me say that now I wanted to respond to this again, because as we mentioned before, so this idea that, and it's not even really idea, it's true, right? Yes, Black women, when they marry, still, if they are to marry, are more likely to marry Black men. Now, I've oftentimes heard that. I've heard that be a reason for Black women to talk about how they are undyingly loyal to Black men, and how they are loyal to a fault, and how in order for them to have better success in their love and relationships and basically have better success in life, they need to start expanding their options to non-Black men, right? And so that is a very common talking point, that Black women are loyal to Black men to a fault. Now, my pushback, after actually having done my own research and having actually looked at like what actually is going on in the dating and mating dynamics, is that it's actually not that simple. We also understand that Black women have more kids than Black men, right? Although Black women are less married than Black men, they have more kids than Black men. And that basically leads us to the conclusion that either Black women are having kids with the same men. Multiple black women are having kids with the same men. And or that there are black women who are having kids with men outside of their race. And what we have found, based upon the research, I've broken this down in previous videos, is that both are true, right? Black women are having kids with these same men at a higher rate and a higher percentage than black men are having all these baby daddies, right? And then also black women are having kids with men outside of the race. And so why is that important? When we talk about loyalty, we can't assume that black women are getting all these marriage proposals from these white and Asian and Hispanic and Indian men, and they're just turning them down and saying, no, I'm going to turn down your millions. No, I'm going to turn down your six figures. I'm going to turn down your job, your pension, your community. I'm going to turn it all down. I'm going to wait for my good old eligible black man. We already know that's not happening. We already know that is not happening. Black women are not turning down successful white men in droves, waiting for Tyrone to get it together. That's not what's happening. So the issue is not loyalty. The challenge is Brad isn't really interested. Okay. The challenge is Mario comes from a culture that says Mujer la raza. Okay. Mario comes from a culture that deals with his own colorism. So then there's some of that might be ingrained. You have other races of men who just aren't interested in black women when it comes to marriage. And even if they think black women are physically or sexually attractive, they are not going to bring her home and take on her last name because they don't want to bring dishonor to the family. They don't want to deal with the social consequences associated with being with blackness, a black person, depending upon what blackness means in their culture. Or they're just racist. That happens too. So I think it's really difficult, and I think it's really hard and unnerving for black women to be in acceptance that there are cultures out there who legitimately don't see them as white material just because they're black. That does happen. And that their blackness in some contexts is actually seen as a deterrent. And I think that really hurts. That hurts some ladies because they want to be on the same level as a white woman. They want black femininity to be as prized as white femininity. And that's just not the case in certain cultures. Right. And so, again, I'm saying that because when you exist in a Western culture, you exist in a culture that was basically, dominated or set up by white people, by Europeans. You exist in that culture. That's the context. And that's still the majority. It's shrinking, but that's still the majority. You can't be surprised as a minority woman when you are not necessarily seen as their preference. Really not their preference. Put another way, if I just break it down in layman's terms, white men aren't interested like that. They're just not. The reason black women aren't getting married like that to white men and Asian men and Hispanic men, they're not interested. White men have had access to black women since the beginning of this nation. They set up the rules. They set up the laws. They're the ones that have the anti-miscegenation going on. Or they're the ones that were determining that if a black person and a white person got married, that was illegal. They set it up. Not black men, not black women, white men did that. While at the same time still engaging in sexual interactions. So the sexual interactions between black women and other races of men is still very vibrant. This is why you have black women with light-skinned babies, dark-skinned black women with these light-skinned babies with these loose curly hair. You see some of them on TikTok going through the van life, honestly. Some of them TikTok talking about the single mom life. You see that. There's a reason, because they're still having sex with these men. But when it comes down to, okay, now are these men of other races, are they knocking on the door, knocking down the door, beating on the door to black women to say, hey, I want you to take on my last name. I want you to carry my seed. I want you to be part of my legacy. No. We know this. We know this. And I think that I think it's really hard for some ladies to acknowledge the fact that there are men out there, there are a significant amount of men out there who will never consider you for marriage because you're a black woman, period. Just for that reason. And I'm not saying that's everybody. I'm not saying that's every case. But that's actually what we've seen statistically, like I said, now it's over for 50 years now that white men have had access to black women is with respect to marriage, and it has barely budged. Less than 1% of white men in America have a black wife. That has been over 50 years they've had access to. So I'm like, find me the equivalent of a. We've seen divestors in this world, and black women are very vocal about who they want to be with. I see nothing wrong with that. Find me the equivalent of a white male group who was pushing white men expanding their options to black women. Find me the equivalent of Asian men who were going online and trying to encourage Asian men to expand their options. Find me the equivalent of Hispanic men who were encouraging other Hispanic men to expand their options to black women. It doesn't happen. So that's what I'm trying to say. And I'm not saying we obviously know it's not a looks component. There are beautiful black women out there. And yes, and there is classism to this. There is pretty privilege. Yeah, a really attractive, fit black woman is going to have more leverage. She is. That does play a role. But I'm talking, if we're talking by and large, why are so many black women loyal to black men? I don't think it's loyalty as much as it is lack of options. And I don't know how else to say that in a way that doesn't sound like what it is. Black women are beautiful. Black women can be beautiful. And there are black women out there who are amazing wives. But we still exist in a system, again, I'm talking about the West, we still exist in a system that still has racialized views. And that impacts black women because their perception of black femininity right now is very negative. Okay, let me continue. Again, guys, if you're here, like, share, subscribe. Let's continue.
So this is including, there's more black women than there are black men. Then you have to remove those who are already married, those who are already taken. Don't forget the prison, the prison and industrial complex. I've talked about this before on the show, the school to prison pipeline. So that's two. Some people marry people in prison, but most people don't. Let's just be real. Then you have to think about those who just don't want to be married and they want to be bachelors like forevers. It is what it is. That's three. Then you also have to remove those who are not straight. Like, so you have to remove black men that are LGBTQ, right? So the number, think about everything I just said. The number is going to continue to decrease of the men that are available to you. So you're working with the smaller pool. That's why I say a lot of this is basic math.
Okay. So there we go. Like I said, I've broken down in detail. If you guys haven't already, go back and check my pre-record and go back and check my other live that I just did earlier, or my other premiere earlier today, where I broke down everything in detail. We broke down the black men are gay and snow bunnied. We broke down, the black men are gay and snow bunnied. We broke down black men are in prison. We broke down all of that. Like, I never provided the stats, so I don't want to belabor the point for those of you guys who have seen it. You can go back and check my my video earlier today where I talk about it. But here's something else that I want to remember. And here's something else that I want us to consider when we're having this conversation about who's marriageable. Are black men really to blame? Are black men the reason that black women are not married? Another problem that I have with this conversation is that we are always assuming that black women are marriage material. Y'all notice how anytime they start talking about what black men aren't doing, how they're not making enough money, or how they don't have diplomas, or they don't have college degrees, or how they don't, they're not showing up, they're not emotionally available, they don't make enough money, they are secretly gay, they are colorist, futurist, texturist. Like, so you guys notice anytime we have these conversations about black love and black relationships and the ways in which black men are not showing up, we almost never talk about how black women are showing up. The assumption is that the entirety of the black female population in America is doing well. The assumption is that black women as a collective across the world in the diaspora are doing okay, and that they themselves are inherently marriageable. And so we have to beg the question, what makes somebody marriageable? How do you determine, what are the qualifications that make somebody ready for marriage? What does that look like? What does a marriage-minded woman look like? What does a marriage-minded man look like? Because there's a whole laundry list of the things that we know women want. I think men are very clear what women want from men, right? Men know that women want men who are tall, primarily, who make at least six figures. Now it's probably getting even higher, in the higher end of six figures. Who have some form of social status, because listen, there are blue collar workers out there. There are skilled tradesmen out there who make six figures, who are making good money, but may not get the clout or may not get the consideration because they don't have a college degree. So really, when women are saying that they want college degrees, what they really want is status. They want the status that comes with being in a white collar corporate setting. They want access to the nice parties. Okay. They want access to the secret societies. They want access to, the fraternities, the sororities, and the different things that go on there. Like, they want the social clout. And a man who's making over six figures, who's a skilled tradesman, he can have a really good life, but he may not be in those circles that these women want. So let's just be clear. They really want the social status. So they want the height, they want the money, they want the social status. That's what they really want. Okay. Of course they want the looks. They don't want to be with anybody ugly. They say they want a God-fearing man, but that's all up for debate. Because these same women will say that and say God first, but then they'll sitting up there having their booty cheeks out, twerking and in and out of bed, talking about casual sex, praying to their ancestors, but then going to church every other week. So, like I said, that's even the whole God-fearing man, that's even up for debate. Because half the time that's like, well, what God are you talking about? But anyways, I'm just saying, like, I think y'all let me know in the comment section. I think we all know pretty clear that it's obvious what women want from men, from Black men. That's really obvious. But can anybody articulate what a marriage-minded woman looks like? And if anybody stands up here and says, oh, she's a hard worker, we've lost the plot. We've lost the plot. If I stood here and say, what does a marriage-minded woman look like? And the first thing that comes out of your mouth is her degree, we have lost the whole plot, family. We've lost it. We got to go back to preschool, not even kindergarten, not even first grade, preschool, and learn the basics. Because you can have an uneducated woman who don't know how to spell educated, and she can be an amazing wife and mother. Again, you can have a woman who was never made it past the 6th grade, who can be an amazing wife to a high value man, by the way, to a man that most women would consider high value. So a woman's education has no bearing on her ability to be marriageable. And I think this is where a lot of ladies lose the plot, honestly, because we've in this culture, women are programmed, and they're, I think, to a certain extent, cultivated to be ambitious, to be industrious, to want to create their own career, have their own life, or whatever. And listen, I'm not saying it's wrong as a woman to have your own trade or your own skill. And I don't think it's wrong to have an education. Nothing wrong with that. I come from a long line of educators, literally. So that's not my issue. But I think because those are the things that women like, because women tend to be attracted to men who have accolades, success, who have proven social status that other people see, because women are attracted to men that have power, right? Who have access, because women tend to be attracted to that. They might assume that men are attracted to the same thing. And quite frankly, we've had a culture for the last few decades. Who have made it very clear what women want, because media has by and large been dominated by feminist rhetoric for some time now. So we have a culture that we know what women want, and then because women go on television and hear what they want, they assume that's the standard for relationships. They assume men want the same thing. But they actually don't. And so I think ladies need to know that you can have a PhD. I mean, I give shout out to Sabby Sabs. He brought that up too. You can literally have a doctor. You can have a PhD. You can be the most highly educated out there and have zero understanding when it comes to how to be a wife, what makes you marriageable. So no, your degree does not make you marriageable as a woman. No, the amount of money that you make does not make you marriageable. This is another mistake I hear ladies make. I will see young, attractive, seem like they have a good personality, Black woman, specific, who are in marriaging age, right? Maybe young teens, early 20s, you know, just cute as all get out, talk about how they're not ready to settle down. They don't think they're ready for a serious relationship because their money isn't right. I'm like, what planet are you on? Who taught you this? I've never met a man that looked at a woman's bank account and said, "Oh wow, that's my wife." I mean, I'm sure there's a few gigolos out there. You know what I mean? There's a few. But I'm just saying, if you're just talking about like just a basic, your typical man, especially your high value, but the kind of men that women want aren't getting turned on by the fact that a woman has a savings account. Like that doesn't make them attracted. I'm gonna keep it PG, folks. Okay, you know what I mean? But like they're not turned on by that. That's not a point. It's not like, oh wow, she has a PhD. Woo, I'm hot and bothered. Like men aren't looking at a woman's bank account or the fact that she graduated from college and got all A's. Like that's not really. That's neither here nor there. It's like, okay, congratulations. Great. How do you look in a swimsuit? Great. Congratulations. You have a savings account. Amazing. Can you cook food? Yay. Yay. You can pay your own rent and pay for your own car. Great. You're an adult. Are you nice? You know what I mean? Like the things that men tend to value as marriageable have nothing to do with all the things that women generally value. The whole context of this conversation is really based upon, you know, women who are basically determining the standard for what makes a man marriageable. That's really what we started off, right? She talked about, okay, well, men, they don't have this particular degree, right? They don't have a certain level of educational attainment. They have a record. They have this. So, but I'm like the setting point of the conversation is usually based upon what women need or what women want from a relationship. And I know I'm going on a little bit of a tangent here, but I want you guys to understand that the conversation never shifts to what men want. And I think if we had a conversation about what men actually consider marriageable, then we might be able to level set this conversation and we might be able to determine that, hey, maybe it's not that 100% of Black women are marriage material and only 2% are. Maybe there's only 20% of Black women who are marriage material, and there's only 19% of Black men who are marriage material. And well, maybe why aren't those people getting married? Right. And I'm just making up numbers, but what I'm saying is that when we assume that all Black women are marriage minded and we don't take into consideration the things that men want, such as health, personality. Don't nobody want to be with anybody mean. And if you have an education and if you have money and if you have a savings and you can pay your own car and got your own little luxury apartment, but you are mean as hell, no man cares. No man cares. Okay. If you got hella kids, like a lot of dudes, especially the kind of dudes that women like, because there are going to be men out there who will be with literally anything. You're going to find a man on any level for a woman, but the kind of men that ladies like to show off to their friends, those kind of men generally are not going out of their way to try to be stepdads. And if they do choose to be that, it's usually because a woman is really, really, really looking the part. She's bringing something to the table for him. She's, you know what I mean? But I'm saying like the single parenthood is a big deal for a lot of guys. And we're not talking about that. Like we're just assuming that all those women are great because they do meditations and affirmations and they have great personalities. That means men are just going to accept them. And it's like, you can do meditations and affirmations and have great personalities. And you might be somebody's wife, but for a lot of men, you're going to be removed. Just like a woman might remove a man who only has a high school diploma. There are going to be men out there who are going to remove you if you got a kid out of wedlock or two or multiple baby daddies. So it's like, but you see how we don't bring up both points. We just be like, men aren't here, women are here, and men are the problem. Like that's always it. And it's like, we're not partially the reason we don't get anywhere is because there's not a full diagnosis of the problem. Okay, let me continue. Again, guys, if you like what's going on here, like, share, subscribe. Shout out to you with the 3 super sticker. I appreciate you. No placeholder over here. It says eligible according to whom? Exactly. That's what I said. How do you actually determine eligible? Okay, let's continue. Or let me kind of get somewhere with this.
Hello.
Oh,
My name is Adam Ferrari, the Chief Executive Officer of Phoenix Energy. I look forward to you.
Now, some people see this and they'll say, oh, well, Sabby, what do you know? You're married. I am, but I wasn't always married. Some people say to you, oh, Sabby, what do you know? You're not married to a black guy. No, I'm not. But again, I wasn't always married.
Now, I know real quick, I know some of y'all just tapped out when you find out that she was married to a white man. I'm not here to make any judgment about a person's marriage. I'm like, you know, I don't believe in speaking against people's marriages. I wish her and her husband nothing but success. Now, from what I understand, because honestly, I just found out about Sabby Sabs. From what I understand, I think she does position herself as someone who's very, just in Black spaces and Black causes and basically pro-Black causes. And so I do understand how that could be, it could be seen a little confusing if you're like pro-Black, you know what I mean? And Black rights and ADOS or FBA or African American or, you know, however, right? Because there's all movements associated with that. But you're in the Black space, but then it's like, but you ain't got a Black, what? And so I know some of you guys mentioned concern with that. And listen, like I said, I'm not here to judge her and her romantic choices. I wish her and her husband nothing but the best. But I do understand, me personally, I feel like when you are particularly championing something for your community, whether it's like you believe in Black empowerment or you believe in Buy Black, or you basically just believe in trying to create a better reality for your community, I personally believe that the leaders of those need to be in Black families. Like the ones leading it. I'm not saying that you can't be connected to it in some way, shape, or form if you're married, you know, interracially or whatever. Like, I'm not saying that you can't support your community just because you are in an interracial relationship or marriage. No, I think you can support them. But I'm saying as far as like who needs to be leading the charge, no, I think the person who needs to be leading the charge needs to have a Black family. That's just me personally, because I'm like, that doesn't, and no other culture but Black folks do we have this debate of can you be pro-Black and sleep white? Other cultures inherently know what to do. Like, it's not even up for debate. It's only in Black culture where we got to sit here and debate the basics of common sense when it comes to some of these things. Okay, so as far as I'm concerned, if you're trying to be a leader of something that has to do with Black families, Black communities, okay, just Black folks moving forward, then I think, me personally, I believe that your family should reflect that. Because it's like, if you are wanting to empower the Black community, well, the first step of a Black community is a Black family. So it's like, you got to have a Black family to do that. And again, I'm talking about with respect to leaders. I think, you know, you can support on just because you marry somebody or with somebody who's not Black doesn't mean that you are like, that revokes who you are. No. But I'm just saying, as far as a leader is concerned, yeah, leaders are held to a different standard. That's just me. Anyways, let's continue here.
Once upon a time, I did date. So keep that in mind. Now we're going to go on a little bit more in this segment because I want you to see the women that they sit down and they talk to. All of these women have professional jobs, you know, very smart. And I want you to hear some of the things that they say. Again, this was 15 years ago. And you tell me if this still holds true today.
And eligible to pop the question. Nicole sees the problem every day.
It is sad to see that the majority of the defendants that we prosecute are Black males. Those numbers can be very disappointing.
Admittedly, the selection of men is slim. Get it through your head. You're the Friday girl that's just for sex. That's what you are.
We broached this serious dilemma with comedian turned relationship guru Steve Harvey, author of the book Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man.
There are still a lot of good men out there who are being overlooked.
Harvey says Black women don't have to settle, but may need to compromise.
You a corporate exec? Does he have to be a corporate exec? You make $150,000 a year. He has to make 150 or above? That's your requirement?
So one of the things that Steve Harvey brings up here is that maybe the women are being too selective. But I want to play double.
Wait, you think? Y'all seen Pop the Balloon? You think? Okay. But let's continue. Let me just continue on this one real quick.
devil's advocate here for just a second, because I remember when I was in undergrad, and I remember a lot of the women were selective, okay? Like, I remember regardless, Black women, white women, a lot of the women were pretty selective. And if we go back to the math, we go back to the numbers, when I was in college, the male to female ratio was not cool. There were way more women at my college than there were men. So you already have a shortage. And that's for everybody.
Let me say this. Well, actually, no. Let me let her finish this real quick.
Went to the university. I graduated from the University of South Carolina. There were more women than there were men, regardless of color. So there wasn't a guy for every woman at college. There just wasn't.
Okay, can I say this too? How many Black women do you know that go to college to get married? How many Black women do you know that actively, if they do go, right? Because even the ones that do go, that's still a minority, those who go and finish. But how many Black women do you know that go to college seeking long-term committed relationships? Y'all let me know down in the comment section, please. Now, the reason I'm mentioning that is she makes a good point. Yes, there are more women than men in college. That is true. Let's start there. But I think what we're missing from the conversation is that women don't go to college trying to look for long-term relationships. As a Black educated, college-educated woman who came from a long line of educators, who also has people in my family who have been educated, I can tell you experientially, or I can tell you just in my own life, that we are not taught to go to college to find relationships or to get married. We are told to go there and learn and get our studies and get our bag, get our cash and get our money. That's what we're told to do. Quite frankly, Black women are oftentimes discouraged from getting in serious relationships too young. They really are. They may have aunts, they may have moms, they may have grandmothers, they may have people in their cousins, or they may have friends or acquaintances, somebody in there, an older Black woman that's going to tell them, don't get settled down too young. You have time. You got time. Don't worry about it. I'm telling you this because this happened to me. These are things that I heard personally. I'm not making this up. I didn't read this in a report somewhere. This is stuff that I experienced in my own life. And I know other Black women who was the same thing. So let me tell you, Black women don't go to college seeking relationships. So this would be a completely different conversation if you had marriage-minded Black women who were going there, right? And the Black women who went to college, right? A good portion of them, majority of them were married. And then you had the leftovers, which is what they like to use sometimes. I hate that term. But you have those who basically weren't able to get married, going out and saying, man, like, I really want to get married. Like, I really wish I could have met somebody, but they're not there. Like, the dynamic would be completely different if we knew that college was a place where people not only got their studies, but got their spouse. And you had a significant amount of Black women who were sending out their graduation invitations and also sending out their wedding invitations around the same time. And then from that, those women who weren't married, because there weren't men around and they just all the men were taken, those women stood up and said, hey, we really wanted to get married. We made ourselves available where we can do A, B, C, X, Y, and Z, but there's just not enough men. Like, that would be a completely different dynamic. And quite frankly, honestly, if college was a place where it was more, I think, nurturing, if it was more nurturing, or if it was more, what's the word? If it cultivated an atmosphere where young people could get together and have committed relationships and actually lead to marriage, and then actually masculine men felt accepted, you might actually have more men consider it. Like, honestly, you might actually have more men consider being in college, or at least going for that reason, if they really believe that they could find a good woman out there, good marriage-minded woman. But that's not the case. That's not the case. So again, she's bringing that up, like, oh, when women go to college, you know, there's not enough men there for them to get married or be in relationships with. But what I'm saying is women, Black women, we're not taught to go to college to even be in relationships. We're actually discouraged from doing that. So I think that is a really important caveat to the conversation. And I'm saying this from my own experience.
And then again, you got to go through those deletions, right? You got to remove the ones that are already in a relationship. You got to remove the ones that are LGBTQ. You have to remove the ones that are not interested in having a partner. And I bring up college because what I noticed from my experience is that most of my female colleagues that are married, they're
I don't want to hear I fall and I can't get up. It's not going to happen with
Yeah,
this
sorry,
element,
guys.
but it's beautiful.
Their husband that they married, they met in college. I have 3 comrades I know from high school that married their high school sweetheart, but that's not as common nowadays. But only 3 of them that I know that married their high school sweetheart. One of them is divorced.
Okay. Again, I don't disagree with her. If any of you guys could answer in the question, let me know down in the comment section. Okay. Which Black woman do you know who actively go to college seeking marriage? Where in Black American culture is there or has there been a movement where Black women are cultivated and encouraged to go to college to seek not only studies, but a spouse? Where are we encouraged to do that? I'd like to know, because I've never seen it in my lifetime. I'm sure there are Black women who that happens. But what I'm saying is that's not a cultural tenet. That's not really something that is ingrained. Black women are taught, Black American women are taught and encouraged to be self-sufficient and to get their own money and to have their own bag. So that when the nigga leaves you, you can have your own stuff. You can have your own money. You can take care of yourself. This is the stuff that we heard. Verbatim. I'm telling you verbatim some of the stuff that I've heard. Verbatim. So again, I'm mentioning these things because I'm like, there's a lot more to Black women aren't getting married because Black men are gay. It's nobody in prison. I broke that down in detail. I provided the stats in my previous videos. Go check it out. I'm not going to belabor the point if you guys want to see the stats. But what we're not also talking about is some of the other components around it and the ways in which Black men are showing up and the ways in which they don't know how to show up. And that's what I think is also a really big missing piece. A really big missing piece. Okay, let me again, guys, like, share, subscribe, show some love on the Cash App. Also, okay, real quick, let me see where we're at, because let's see how the likes are doing. Because we're at about the hour mark. So let's see how the likes are doing, see if y'all treat me right. Let's see how the support is. Real quick, guys. So, okay, so let's see where we're at. We have, where are we at? Okay, guys, get those likes up for me. Get those likes up for me if you can. Get those likes up. I'm going to go in a quick break, you guys. Show some love to this show. And then we will try to wrap it up. Okay. Okay. All right. You said, wait, Jake. Wait, what are we waiting for? What am I waiting for? Help me understand. Sorry, guys, I got kicked out. Okay. All right. So let's continue or try to finish this up. And again, guys, for those of you who are just joining me right now, I don't know why that happened. I'm sorry. I am basically trying to finish a review of Sabby Sabs, who reacted to a viral clip of mine where it's initially reacting to Michelle Obama and some of the things that she said about marriage that I took issue with because of her position of power and influence. And so I did a reaction to Michelle Obama, Sabby Sabs did a reaction to me, and I am reacting to Sabby Sabs' reaction to me because I wanted to finish it. Okay. Let's continue. And also, guys, if you like what this is about, and if you guys like what I do, the best way to support is to Cash App, Venmo, or check out some of my products. I would love to hear feedback from you guys. You know, I've dropped the book, It's Not Jermaine's Fault. And also Aisha loves to learn her hair. These are books that are dedicated to helping Black children, because at this point, with a lot of the different things that's going around and the way education is being defunded, it's ultimately up to Black parents or just to Black people to educate children, nieces, nephews, cousins, all the above. So if you haven't, you can check that out, or you can also purchase some of my merch. It's Not Jermaine's Fault at my store, what's available. But that's the best way to show that you support me, guys, is to invest in any way that you feel like you can. And I appreciate you guys who are just sharing your time with me. I know that that is also a worthwhile investment. Okay, so let's bring this up really quick. I'm going to finish this, and then we are going to try to land the plane.
People change. But most of my comrades that I know from college married the guy that they were in a serious relationship with in college. So if there is already a shortage of men at college, you're already working with a deficit. This is why I say math plays a part in that. Now, let's add on to that deficit a little bit, because like I told you, most Black women prefer to marry a Black man. So now if there are, we'll just use short numbers, like smaller numbers to make it easier. If there are 100 women at said college and there are 30 men, and let's say 10 of them are already in a relationship, let's say 5 of them may be LGBTQ. There's 15 guys left and there's 100 women. And then if your choice is to marry a Black man, let's say out of those 30 guys that, let's go a little bit generous, let's say 10 of them are Black. So you're working with a deficit, right? Now, here's what I'm not going to do, because
she said, okay, you're working with a deficit. Now, here's another reason I wanted to react to this. So when I initially listened to the video, I didn't think much about it. I was like, okay, I mean, she has her point of view. I may not agree with some of it, but right. But what I noticed, honestly, after listening to my husband's perspective and then replaying it, he helped me understand that there are ways in which Black men can be undermined and insulted in a really, really nice professional way, right? Like there's the obvious cussing folks out, you know, niggas ain't sugar, honey, iced tea. And I hate using that word, but I just know this is the kind of way we talk to each other, right? And so there's ways where it's just blatant misandry, but a lot of the misandry that we see that happens in the political sphere, that happens in media, is really subtle. And it's actually oftentimes done with a bow or with a nice professional tone. So the interesting thing about this entire video is that this is a definition of the niggas ain't sugar, honey, iced tea, but with a nice professional tone. Because she's saying, oh, it's just the numbers aren't there. The numbers aren't there. Translation, Black men are in crisis, right? Translation, there are not enough good Black men. Translation, a good portion of Black men are dusties. Like, however, or Black men are dusties, right? Or escape Blackistan. Like it can really go there. But what I'm saying is, just because something is said with a nice, appeasing professional tone doesn't mean it's any less insulting. And I didn't really pick up on this initially. I listened to her and I was like, okay, she's being very professional. I didn't hear her like really insulting anybody. She's just sharing her point of view. I'm not tripping. But my husband listened to this and he was just like, this is hella insulting. He was like, just because you say something nice, you see, this is something professional. She was, and then again, I'm just telling you what my husband told me, right? I'm just sharing his perspective. Now, you guys let me know how you think. You guys let me know how you guys reacted to the video, because I'm curious. I'm just letting you know some of what I heard and why I also wanted to respond to it, because there are times in which I think even Black women, we're not even fully aware of the ways in which we are internalizing misandry. Because while she never called Black men out of their name. She never said that they are this and this and that. She used professional terms like it's the numbers, but the implication to that, particularly with the level of influence that she has, and particularly with the kind of political leverage, or at least connections, and the people who are listening to her, the implication of that is Black men are not on their game. Black men are not on our level. Black men are not pulling their weight. Black men are the problem. Like, that's the implication to all of this. Literally, that's the implication. And I also, listening to this, I was like, wow, like this is exactly why, while Black men are by and large the most liberal, And still, those who do vote tend to vote for the Democrats. This is exactly why many of them are less and less happy, or they're more discontent with what's going on in the left, because they feel like they're constantly being disrespected. From Michelle Obama going out there saying different things about her husband, like literally you can't get any more influential, you can't get any more power, honor, money, or status than being the president of the United States. You can't get anywhere on that. And even she goes online and says stuff about her husband and talking about promoting double standards. Like, I can tease him, but he can't tease me. And I didn't like him for 10 years. And like, just like what? Like, did I really need to hear that? Like, did I need to hear that? You know what I mean? So I'm just saying, like, you have that. And then now you have someone like such as Sabby Sabs, who is saying something, and Black men are like, wait, like, not only is this not true, this is like hella disrespectful, because you're not pulling out the full bag here. It would be one thing if they're just like, okay, Black men are this, but also let's look at the ways in which Black men also themselves are not showing up. So we can look at it now as a community problem and as something that is not inherent to a gender. But you can maybe now talk about, well, is this a systematic thing? Is this a cultural thing? Is this a problem that has been cultivated through, right? So you can actually give more credence to it and actually get to the root, source. But that didn't happen. It wasn't, let's look at the problem. Let's look at all the different variables. Let's see the ways in which Black men are struggling and the ways Black women are struggling and try to figure out why. No, it was well, Black men aren't this. Black women are here, Black men are here. It's the numbers. That's what it means. It's the numbers, translation, blame Black men. It's the numbers, translation, Black men aren't doing well. It's the numbers, translation, niggas ain't sugar honey iced tea. It's the numbers, translation. You know what I mean? Like, and again, honestly, it was my husband that helped me. My husband who helped me see this. And listen, I have to now, even myself, be a lot more aware, because I'm not trying to pick on Sabby Sabs. What I'm saying is a lot of this stuff is cultivated. A lot of this stuff, it's so deeply ingrained in culture, and it's so deeply taught that Black women are trained since they're little girls to be disrespectful and misandrous to a certain extent, that it doesn't even register when we're doing or saying things that are problematic. We just assume it's true. I mean, she literally went and pulled a video from 15 years ago. And all these talking points that were then are there today. And even the context of this conversation, she started and she was just like, we're having this conversation again. Why is it coming up again? As if the problem was solved. As if we already determined, everybody already knew that the problem was Black men. So we don't need to talk about it again. Like, that's just standard operating procedure, water under the bridge, blame Black men, like, move on. You know what I mean? Like, even the way she set this up, like, why are we talking about this? We should already know that the problem is this, the numbers. Hashtag Black men aren't on a level. Do y'all understand what I'm saying? I hope y'all let me know in the comment section if you understand what I'm saying. Now, real quick, I want to acknowledge some of the super chats. This one says, Shay, here are a couple factors that men put into marriage matrix. Here are the deduction. 26% Black women are gay. 47% Black women are single mothers. So what do Black men have to pick from? Listen. That's the prime example. Because we want to sit here and talk about, okay, Black men are gay. I mean, statistically, if we look at the numbers, Black women identify as gay and queer and on the spectrum a lot more than Black men. So much more than Black men, right? So you would actually have to pull a larger number out of the female population than you would Black men based upon those who actually identify as gay or same gender loving, right? And then you mention the single mother factor. Now that point, that's like, I mean, dang, we want to go there. And that's what I'm saying. It's like, if we actually start to qualify what marriageable looks like, that completely expands the conversation. And what you start to find out is it ain't looking too hot. It ain't looking too good for Black women either. If we want to sit here and say Black men, if we want to assume that everything is true about Black men, that they're either in prison, that there's no money, or that they're gay, okay, well, fine. Let's just assume all of that is true. We're just going to assume, just for the sake of the argument, that that's true. How many Black women marriage material? You mentioned, okay, how many black men are gay? We know black women, again, identify as gay more than black men do, like statistically. I broke that down in my previous live. So black women are gay. Also, black women are in prison. I shared information previously that showed that black women are in prison just exponentially more than white women and women of other races. Black women are in prison at a higher rate, at a higher number. They call it the new Jane Doe. I broke this down. So black women are gay. Black women are also in prison. Swirlers or divestors, anybody? So I don't even need to belabor that point. I got a whole playlist. Okay, and we didn't even talk about single mothers. We didn't talk about that. We didn't talk about the single mothers, and then we also didn't talk about the health component. We didn't mention that. We didn't even go there. We did not even go there. How many black women are healthy or at a healthy BMI? And I know anytime a black woman wants to talk about BMI, she wants to bring up the white man standards. Every single time, the white man standards. So we are quick to want to push against the white man standards when it has to do with black women and the way in which they should show up to the dating market. But nobody cares about the white man standards that applies to black men. Black women don't care about the white man standards with these men having to make X amount of money. Black women don't care if black men have to try to make, 6-7 figures. They don't care about them standards. Okay, no, keep those white men standards. Keep the white man's dollar. Keep the white man's dollar, please. Keep it. But don't talk about no BMI. Don't talk to her about a BMI. So that's what I'm saying. It's like we're not really consistent here. And if we're going to sit here and try to assume that black women are inherently marriage material and are inherently marriageable when we don't exist in a culture that even cultivates marriage, we've lost the plot, family. Like we've literally lost the plot, and we are not being honest. This is not a serious conversation. It's really not. Okay, this one right here. Let me think. I'm sure I got everything. It says, magnificent work. I commend you for your most excellent work and clarification of Sabby Sabs' reaction to you. Salute. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I really, really appreciate it. Okay, here it says, keep doing the Lord's work, Shay. Thank you for the 5. Thank you guys so much. What's going on, Malarkey? It's always good to see you. Malarkey's been a long-time supporter, a long-time follower. I really appreciate all that Malarkey does. It says, who in heaven's name hurt Miss Pope? She doesn't seem concerned, just deeply bitter that she hasn't bagged the dude she genuinely desires. Anyway, subscribing to my sister Chez Chardé. She cares. Thank you. Thank you. So it sounds like you just got back from watching my reaction to Rebecca Lynn Pope. The crazy thing, you guys, the crazy thing about this is I did a premiere of a live I did, I think a year or 2 ago, I did this live and I re-premiered it today. The reason I re-premiered it today is because the exact same rebuttals that I offered can literally be applied to the exact same thing Sabby Sabs mentioned in her video. Put another way, the same BFF that was being said a few years ago is the same BFF I'm hearing today. And the reason I'm calling it BFF is because a lot of this is propaganda. And I'm not even saying this from a place of judgment because I actually legitimately believed at one point, I believed a lot of the stuff Sabby Sabs said. I just assumed it was true because I heard it. I heard it. As a Black woman, you heard it. And it wasn't until I started doing my own research. And it wasn't until I started listening and hearing and getting more information that I realized that it was just BS. It was BFF, but it wasn't true. It wasn't true. And so again, I'm not even saying this necessarily from a place of judgment as much as I understand the ways in which we are like our brains, like we are acculturated to believe this stuff. And it's not until somebody looks, pulls up the mirror and says, hey, this is a lie, or hey, are you considering this? Or hey, like it's not until somebody pushes back that we're just like, hey, like let's break out of the trance. Like let's stop. Like wake up. You're in a trance. Okay, I mean, then we can be like, oh, maybe I just sat up there and just spewed a whole bunch of different nonsense that's not based upon anything substantial. Okay, as a baby boomer, this is the continuation of what I heard as a young man in the right. I wasn't even there in the mid-'80s, but I'm like, I think I've heard BGS say it. Shout out to him. I mean, I think he's old, older. He's been around a lot longer, and he was like, this is the same stuff I heard coming up. So I'm like, if we don't get it together. Okay. This one says, thank you for addressing and unpacking the Shay. Salute to you and your husband. Thank you. I appreciate you guys. Okay, so let's continue. Let's continue on this one. I just wanted to mention, I appreciate all of your guys' love and support. And it's really unfortunate, but I think also I've noticed there is a lot of reaction to this, and I think it's because of who Sabby Sabs is. I had never heard of her until this week, but I know that she has comes with a lot of respect. And I do think that it's important to have these kinds of conversations, because with the amount of influence and connections that she has, there are people who are listening to her. And there are people who are outside of the Black community who are going to take her perspective on the Black community as the gospel truth, because it's not who they are, right? I mentioned she's had a lot of white liberals on her channel, and she has a lot of political connections. And so for her to go on and to share these things matter-of-factly that are inherently false, I could see how that would be problematic to a lot of Black men. I really do. So that's why I wanted to address it. Okay, let's continue. Let's continue with this one.
Because I think people are expecting you to do this, and no, it's not happening. What I am not going to do is to tell you that you need to go date someone that is not Black, right? People have their type, people have their preference. You're attracted to what you're attracted to. I'm not one of those people that's going to tell you to go do that. But I do want you to understand that there is a deficit. You are working with more women and less men. Now let's look at these women that they talked to 15 years ago. Professional women. I want you to hear what they said.
What we looked at were the large numbers of professional Black women who groomed themselves for success with BAs, MDs, and JDs. 70% of them are still without the more elusive title, MRS.
I would be lying if I said that.
Can I just say this real quick? Okay, let me just say this real quick. And then, I'm going to have to plug. I just noticed my camera's acting weird. They said groom them for success. Success. Groomed for success. Groomed for success. Okay. Again, they use the word. Now I'm feeling like Dr. Umar. Groomed for success. Groomed for success. Notice they didn't mention groom for marriage. They didn't mention groom for marriage. They did not mention that. They said groomed for success. That's an important detail, because some ladies make the assumption that having a good career or a college degree translates into being marriageable. It doesn't. And I think that's where there's a big disconnect, a huge disconnect. Okay, I just wanted to call that out real quick. Okay, sorry guys. I need to plug in my camera because I noticed my camera's like starting to act a little funny stuff. So
I don't have fleeting thoughts of, okay, I'm 32, my clock is ticking.
The tick-tock of the biological clock is getting louder for several of Nicole's single friends. Meet Chateau Waters. She's a 32-year-old high school counselor pursuing a doctorate degree in psychology.
We have this thing called the Black girl curse. A lot of our white friends are married by 25, like happily married, kids by 27. And we're like, what is the deal with the BGs? You know,
that part is really interesting, right? So I can respond to that as well. That is something I did notice. Most of my white female colleagues got married pretty early. Like, granted, I went to school in the South, so just take that as an example. They're also in the South, so keep that in mind. But I can't count how many weddings I went to before I was 26.
I'm here in Marissa Tomei's kitchen. You look amazing, by the way.
Thank you. 59, going strong.
Wait, what do you do? What's your secret?
I have many
secrets. Ads.
Can't count. But again, they married the guy that they were in a relationship with when we were in college.
Oops. Oops, my bad. Sorry, guys. Having some, wait, can you guys? Oops. Sorry, guys. Sorry about that. Okay. I had to plug in my camera because I saw it was starting to get a little funny stuff. A couple of things I want to call out there. So they played this is 15 years ago, by the way. They played the Black woman who were talking about they're having a hard time. They're having a hard time, you know, not finding love, and they're 32 and the biological clock, and you know, they say they had the black female curse, the Black white women can get married, but we can't get married. And what's going on? And I'm surprised and I'm confused and boohoo, all that stuff, right? I asked you guys earlier on in this live, show me a group. Show me a community. Show me a trend of Black women who are encouraged to get married. Anywhere. Show me a group. I mean, what? Where and when in Black America were Black ladies cultivated and trained and encouraged to be wives? Ever. You have the first lady, the former first lady, one of the most powerful women in the world, a Black woman coming online and saying that she's teaching her daughters that they don't need marriage or kids to be happy. Yeah, that didn't just come from nowhere. That's been decades and decades and decades of programming. Decades and decades and decades of the exact same messaging. Don't we understand feminism? Feminism gave women the power and the agency to not need marriage. That's literally what it was about. It was, you no longer need to rely upon a man to be able to have food, to be able to have clothes, a roof. You got daddy government that a lot of ladies started collecting checks from. Y'all remember that live I just had a week or two ago with the ex-white feminist who said that she remembered growing up in Chicago and she would talk to Black women, many of them from the projects, who talked about how they would have babies so they could get checks from daddy government. She said they'd get to a certain age and say, I got pregnant, so now I get my check. And she's scratching her head because she was like, at that time she was in the white feminist era and white feminists were like, no, we don't need marriage. We don't need babies. And so she was talking about how they were on that train. But she was like, the Black woman I knew, they saw babies and daddy government as that was their, that was their ticket. That was their job. That was their sustenance. That's what they needed to do. These weren't Black women who were talking about, I'm really looking for a husband. I'm waiting on God for the right one, or I'm trying to figure out how to be a good homemaker. I want to find a man that's going to be good to raise a family with. Like you don't see that. Like that's not a thing. So what's so fascinating to me about these conversations is that we have a culture that promotes BFF from like the earliest stages of our existence, literally. Like Black women are trained to be like straight hood sexual objects from day one. They ain't supposed to submit to men because Black men are dusties, right? And marriage is oppressive. Okay, they're supposed to focus on getting their career in their bag and having fun and having sex and having all these experiences and having all these encounters and finding themselves in between the legs of other men. And then once they found themselves in between the legs of other men and had 50 million soul ties they have to break and maybe had a few broken hearts and maybe a baby daddy or two, then they're supposed to all of a sudden be marriage ready. And I'm like, it doesn't work like that. What I'm saying is we don't have a culture that cultivates women actually being wives. We don't have that. And so I'm not saying that Black women can't be married and that they are not wives. I'm not saying that. We know that they are. But what I'm saying is we can't be surprised when we have a culture that is anti-marriage and then there's no marriages. That's what I'm saying. It's like this shouldn't be like we don't need a scientist, or someone who studies human behavior to understand why there aren't marriages. When you exist in a culture that's anti-marriage, and when you exist in a culture that has inherently said for decades that men are not essential, this shouldn't be shocking. And I want to show you guys, I've played this before, but just to remind you guys, just to put this in your subconscious, I want to show you some real world, anecdotal, yet I think relevant examples of what I mean. And so when we have these conversations about marriage and Black love, we also have to take into consideration class. We also have to take into consideration, race. We also have to take into consideration, just education. Like there's so many different things to consider. But a upper class Black person who grew up upper class is going to have a different experience than a lower class Black person is going to have. So all of those things need to be taken into consideration. But by and large, on any level of class, Black women in America are not trained to be wives. We're just not. That's like not a primary goal, I would say. I would say that women are more encouraged to be independent and free thinking and define happiness on their own terms. And then if marriage is a part of that, then so be it. But it's not really ingrained into the culture. And so because it's not ingrained into the culture, because women aren't taught that or they don't receive those skills early on, they don't have an understanding of it, and a lot of them didn't even grow up seeing it, then there's this huge disconnect. And it's like, yeah, of course you have a struggle finding marriage. Of course you struggle finding relationships. Of course you struggle knowing how to get together or get along with men, because you didn't see that growing up. It wasn't cultivated. You weren't given the tools to be successful. But that doesn't now end up being inherently a problem with the men. That ends up being a problem that is, I think, I would argue, deeply more ingrained in the culture. And things can change. Of course things can change. And that doesn't mean all hope is lost, and it doesn't mean that there aren't men and women who can't be married. But I'm just saying, blaming it on Black men and then just actively saying that the problem is there just aren't enough good Black men is a really, in my opinion, a really lazy analysis. And it's a very dangerous one. And that's actually why things have gotten worse, because we haven't been able to accurately address the problem. 15 years, at least, we've been hearing the same. That video she's playing some 15 years ago. And then how many decades before that was it the same BS? So, okay, but I wanted to bring this up real quick. So when we talk about programming, let me see if I can find some examples for you guys. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to show you. Sorry, guys. I had some examples that I wanted to show you, and I am going to. Because this clip that I'm going to show you right here, I actually have a video that I'm working on that's going to be dropping of it. But this video I'm about to show you is a small little example of, I would argue, the kind of programming that the little girlies are getting. Sorry, I should have had this up earlier, but I'm just not seeing it. Bear with me, guys. Bear with me. Actually, let me go on a little quick break while I'm doing this, because I have some examples I want to show you, but I don't want y'all to just be sitting staring. So, okay, get those likes up, show some support, and then I'm going to pull up some examples while we are doing a quick intermission. Okay, guys, so let me, wait, okay, I'm almost done. Okay, so let me show you real quick. You guys, you may or may not have heard about this, but there's this cute little girl. Cute little girl that's been making the headlines. She initially was found out by, I think it was a song, Boots on the Ground. And she was featured in the song by her uncle. And, initially, cute little girl who can dance, et cetera, et cetera. Some of the moves are cute. Some of the moves were like, I don't know if you need to be moving your hips like that, but okay. But since then, she's gotten a ton of virality. And I'm seeing more and more of her, this little mama, little baby. They call her Miss Shirley, but this little girl is a little toddler, baby Shirley. I'm seeing more and more of baby Shirley put in these positions where she is dancing and acting and saying things that are very grown. Now, why is this important? We're connecting back to Black women being marriage material. This little girl is maybe 3 or 4. This little girl has almost 1 million followers. And she has scores and scores of Black women who are in the comments. There are some who are in the comments who are pushing back. I will acknowledge that. And there are also very many Black women in the comments who are supporting her, bigging her up, laughing at her twerking, supporting all the things that are going on, and see nothing wrong and see no issue with what's being promoted. I want to show this to you, and then because I'm trying to draw a connection here. There's a connection. But let me show you first exactly the kind of programming little Black girls are getting before they turn Black women, and how this all connects to how marriageable Black women themselves are, and the culture that cultivates the kind of behaviors that are being celebrated and the kinds of behaviors that are oftentimes being shamed or that just aren't being cultivated at all. So I'm not going to play it for you up front because I don't want to get a copyright, but this is just a little example. This is a little toddler. Y'all see the way she moving? Y'all see the way she moved? Did y'all see that? Y'all see the way she was moving her little hips and the way they were panning in and out of her movement? Now she got something to say.
That's your box, your brother take. Get some toothpaste. You dirty, mushy, you crusty, you rusty. You better go ahead. Go touch your shoe. Put them on. Period.
So that's just one. You see this one over here. You know, and so this is a girl. This is a little girl dancing in front of the whole. Y'all see the way she's popping her hips, and she's surrounded by an entire coliseum of adults who are bigging her up. Y'all see the way she's moving her hips, and anytime she pops her booty, that's when the crowd goes wild. Y'all see that? This ain't but a toddler. So again, this little girl, listen, she got pigtails. Girl got pigtails. Okay. I mean, she probably can't even spell pigtails. She's so young. But I'm saying, do you see the kind of behavior and the kind of dancing that she's doing? We don't see her being celebrated for baking some cookies or, you know what I mean? Knowing how to do laundry, fold, or, you know what I mean? Like things that can be helpful when you're actually trying to run a household. She's being celebrated for popping her booty. Popping her booty. That's starting that young. And so what I'm saying is that happens. You have Black women who get that message. Okay. And they get that message. And then when they get to a certain age, they're told, you ain't got to marry yet. Have fun. Girl, you can pop that booty. You see, and then because they're popping the booty, they have all these men. They're going to attract men. They're going to attract men because men are men. And you're going to have men who are, she looked good. She got shape. She could move. They just want to have fun, right? And so you're going to have ladies who feed off that attention around the time they should actually be considering marriage or considering a long-term partner. So they, instead of actually settling down, because they was taught when there was a young girl how to pop that booty, now they're in an age where they can be in a relationship, but they're popping the booty and they're getting the attention. They like the attention. So they're not ready to settle down because they want to get all the attention that they can get. And then they get to where they're in their 30s or 40s or whatever. They want to settle down and like, wait, why didn't I marry when I was 25? Honey, you didn't marry when he was 25 because you didn't want to get married. That was not, you weren't, there wasn't a training or cultivation to even make you marriageable at that time. Even if in your heart you wanted to, you didn't know how to seek it out or you didn't know how to make yourself available to it. That's another thing too, because it's not like you just grow up one day and then all of a sudden you have the skills to be a wife and husband. Like there actually is a training and a cultivating process, but so few people are aware of that. So few people are aware of that, particularly the Black community, because if Black families broken down, that then there's this huge lack of understanding as when women aren't married. And it's like, well, you're not married because you're being taught how to move like this. You're being taught to move like this when you are a child. They're having you play songs having you play grown-up songs about sexuality. Why is she moving her hips like that? Why is she going viral for popping her booty everywhere? Why is this little baby girl, all I see this little girl doing is just popping her booty? That's it. I mean, I don't want to get too, because that's a whole other tangent. Like I said, I'm gonna do a whole other video on it. But my point is, don't be surprised. Like, there's obviously a connection. There is a connection. White girls who go to college and get married in college likely had mothers who were encouraging them when they were young girls that is a good thing to do. They weren't told, like many of us were told, don't worry about marriage, girl. Don't listen. You don't want to settle down. You're too young. There's no rush. There's no rush at all. Have fun. Just, girl, don't worry about it. You have plenty of time. Just focus on yourself. Get your money up. Get your bag. And again, I'm telling you from my own experience. This is why I can go into detail about the conversations that I had. Okay. Okay, so I want to just bring that up real quick, because I'm like, that's just one of many examples, many of examples that I have unfortunately heard about. So let's continue with Miss Sabby Sabs. Miss Sabby Sabs.
Now, think about what she just said and think about the numbers that I just gave you. Once again, if she said they were already married by the time they were 25 and you're going back to college, there is already a deficit. We've covered on the show before that more Black women are going to undergrad and pursuing master's degrees and getting higher education. That hasn't changed from when I saw this video. That has continued to increase. And women are saying that they're not seeing that same ratio when it comes to their potential partner at college. So how do you solve this? Because I don't like to leave people with, this is the problem and what do you do about it? One of the things is you try to meet people in different places, right? At school, I feel like we're lucky because, like, when you're in high school, you're put in a building with people, said classmates, you guys have gym, you guys have all this kind of stuff. So you're put in a space together. When you go to college on campus, you are put in a space together. After you leave college, things are a little bit different. You may move to a new city. You may live in a different type of community. You may, I don't know, maybe you're spending a lot of time at work. So you may not be able to have as much time to have extracurricular activities like you used to when you were an undergrad. These things happen, right? So where can you meet people? A lot of people cringe at this, but nowadays, the big one is online. The big one is the social, like, dating apps. And I know some people that have had success on those apps, but I also know some people that have some crazy, wild stories by dating people on those apps. But that's one place where you can meet people. The other one is church. You know, if you go to church, if that's your thing, you can meet people at church. You can also meet people at other social, like, activities, etc.
Can I also say this? So there are going to be situations in which the problem is meeting people. That does happen. Some people are just, maybe they're a little too in their bubble or whatever. Or they're in a space where they're just legitimately not meeting people that would be marriageable, or just be even of interest. That does happen. But for some, the issue isn't meeting people. The issue is they don't even know what to do when they're around somebody who might actually be a good match. They don't have any understanding of that. And so I think that's also what's being removed from this conversation is she's talking as if the issue is Black women just aren't around enough men, period. And so they just need to get around the right man, and then bam, it's just going to be lights, camera, action. It's going to be, all of the love and the romance and the butterflies, and he's going to propose, and bam. And that actually might be the case for a few, but we also can't forget that there's the unspoken problem of the marriage material. Who is a marriage material? Who is marriage minded? Who is marriage ready? How do you determine that? And the very fact that I never, in these conversations, I literally never hear Black women talk about how Black women are marriage material. I never hear it. I never hear Black women say, okay, you know what? These Black women are qualified because of this. And all they can say is that they are in college, that they work hard, and that they have good personalities or they're attractive. That's all they can say. But they can never talk to the qualities that would inherently make them marriage material. And that's my point. That's, I think, the unspoken, uncomfortable truth that we're not willing to talk about. That a big reason that many are not marriageable is because we don't even know how to do that. It's not cultivated. They don't even if they look the part, they don't understand any of the components that are needed to be in a marriage. because many aren't even taught to respect or value or like Black men. Because if you grow up hearing your whole life that Black men are trash, pretty much. I mean, you can say it nice, oh, there's not the numbers, but translation, Black men are trash, or they're dusties, they're just basically broken down. And then let's say you are a woman who is able to get the good ones, right? Let's just use those terms. You were the lucky one that was able to get the good ones. You still inherently have in the back of your mind that Black men are inherently trash. And so then here's going to be the other extreme. You're going to have Black women out there. You're just like, okay, get with a good Black man, but make sure you got to keep him humble. Because now the fears, if you're able to get with a good Black man, is that he's going to be prideful. Because he knows that so many Black men are trash that when he makes it, he's going to be prideful and he's going to try to abuse you. So if you are one of the few Black women who does get with a Black man, now you're going to have to deal with that whole other side of the narrative, which is, okay, the good Black men are, they're so prideful and they're arrogant. And so then you might, if you're not aware of the programming, if you're not aware of all of the tension and all of the negativity and negative narratives around Black love and around Black masculinity and Black femininity, you might fall into the trap of feeling like you need to make sure you keep your man humble. So you can't always fully respect him because in the back of your mind, you have this idea that Black men as a collective are trash. And then you're afraid that he might try to abuse you because a confident Black man is really scary. Culturally, a confident Black man, there's not a space for confident Black men in this culture. So the issue ain't just Black women aren't meeting men. I'm sorry. There are enough men around. Men exist. That's not the only issue. I think we can also acknowledge that some just don't know what in the hell they're doing. They have no idea. And just because they have a degree don't make them any more marriage ready. If anything, for some ladies, a degree could be the last thing they need to do. For some ladies, a degree actually makes their relationship prospects worse. Not because men are intimidated. Men are not intimidated by a degree. I've never heard a man or seen a man know that finding a woman has a degree and then get scared and run the other way. Or finding a woman, oh, wow, she got a master's. Ooh, wow. And then want to slide in her DMs because she got a master's. Like men aren't trying to slide into the DMs of women because they have master's or doctorate degrees. Right? Men aren't throwing, even if you think of the simps out there, right? Men who just simp, do all kind of crazy stuff for ladies that don't do nothing. They're not doing that because they have college degrees or because they have great savings or because they can pay their own rent. If they are doing that, it's because she looks the part or because she's attractive, because she appeals to what he as a masculine man finds appealing. So like I said, for some women, the reason their degree has made it harder for them to find love is not because the men are intimidated, but because some of these ladies will use their degree or their job as a way to become unbearable. Or they'll use it as a way to now raise their standards, or they'll just walk around feeling like they're actually better than the men that are around them. And so, again, men are not intimidated by your degrees. Men, by and large, are not intimidated by a woman with degrees. They just don't want to put up with the bad attitude that comes with it. If that woman is a lady that thinks that her degree makes her better, more desirable, she's more of an adult, she's more responsible, whatever. If she believes in any way, shape, or form that her degree makes her better than the next person, the next man, that's what they're averse to. They're not averse to the fact that you have a degree. They really don't care. They're like, okay, you have a bachelor's, great. How do you look at a swimsuit? Right? Again, how do you look at a swimsuit? Can you cook? You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? That's what their brain is. Like, how do you look without the makeup though? I wonder how you look without that makeup. I wonder how you look. Do you have a waist trainer? Like that, like that sort. So the degree isn't the problem. The degree only becomes a problem if a woman uses that as a reason to just to be mean or to be disrespectful or to think that she's better than somebody else. That's what I'm trying to say. And I don't think ladies really be thinking that men are intimidated by the fact that they got a piece of paper. And it's like, you've missed the whole plot. That's not it at all. Shout out to you, Mr. Two Cents. Says, I bet that baby's father would not approve those actions. I think even a poopy baby daddy wouldn't approve. That part. You're talking about that little baby. Oh. I'm gonna do a whole nother video on that. It's very disturbing. I'm like, is there a petition? I'm like, I want to see somebody have a petition. Be like, why are we? It's tough because you can't teach somebody else how to parent a child. You can't. Like, A mother has the right to, raise a child in any way that she wants. But the thing that's so tricky about culture nowadays, and the thing that's so dangerous about social media, is you're seeing more and more of this culture of baby influencers who are being coached by their parents. And I think there's a really a fine line between just having fun and giving your kids space to be a kid, and then just starting to put them in spaces and places that they're not ready for. And I am sorry if I am seeing pan-ins of your behind and of you shaking your waist like you are a grown woman, and you are cussing, and you are saying you can't even fully articulate the words that you're trying to cuss. You can't even pronunciate, but you're trying to say grown phrases. I'm like, I take issue with that. And I think one of the reasons it happens is because we have a culture that cultivates it, or we have a culture that says it's okay. And I'm like, what I understand about women, listen, women they vibe off of community. They vibe off of what others think about them, particularly ladies. So I feel like if the culture was such that these women knew that they wasn't getting no love from nobody, that there weren't women who supported it, they wouldn't do it, because it wouldn't come with the validation of the social clout that they're looking for. So I wish there was more pushback with respect to that. But anyways, shout out to you for that. Also, this one right here, it says, but what's even crazier is, as a man, imagine arguing and fighting to get the mother to stop teaching their child. I am not ready for that conversation. Listen. Okay. Let me finish this. Let me pull this up.
Sporting events, sports is a big one. You can meet people at like basketball games, football games, that type of thing. But it's tricky because at the same time, you don't want to make it seem like you out there looking for somebody if you're going to a basketball game. And oftentimes I think these things happen when you least expect it to. I didn't even expect to get married. It just happened. Like literally, like when I moved to Massachusetts, I didn't move here and say I was looking for somebody. It happened when I least expected it to. And I think sometimes that can be like the best case scenario when you're not looking and it just happened. Right? And I want to hear from the men on this one too. Some of the things that I have heard from men is that they feel like there's nothing that they can offer you if you already have everything. So let's go back to the college thing again. If the numbers continue the way that they are, where there's more Black women in college than Black men, it could be possible that there could be some type of an intimidation factor.
Did she Did she just say what? She just literally said what? I'm sorry. I'm gonna try to stop laughing. Oh, I'm laughing because didn't I literally just say this? Didn't I just say, like, is this deja vu? Didn't I literally just say like a few minutes ago, they're not intimidated by your career? Like, that's not a thing. And then she went on to say, oh, well, there must be an intimidation factor. What? Am I crazy? Okay, you guys, let me hear from you. She said it. She was like, I want to hear from the men. So let me hear from you. Let me hear. And have you guys honestly ever been intimidated by a woman with a bachelor's degree or a master's, or who has higher education than you? Has that ever been? Have you ever found out a woman had a degree and then you automatically became more attracted to her? She became seen as more valuable to you because of her degree. Has that ever happened? Please let me know down in the comment section. I'm going to wait. I am going to wait on this one. I'm waiting. I see no, not at all. I can't see her degree. Never. No, and women have crossed the street to avoid you. What? Okay, not at all. So do y'all think, nope, never intimidated, never scared? Never intimidated, never scared. This is really what women tell themselves. And listen, moment of truth. Moment of truth. The reason I can laugh and say these things is because I legitimately, all of the stuff that she's saying is actually things that I believed at one point in my life, like legitimately. So this is why I'm like, there's hashtag no judgment, because I understand that these are the things that women are told. And until you are given a reason to question it, you won't. You'll just assume that it's the gospel truth. I at one point believed that men were intimidated by degrees that women had. I at one point believed that men were intimidated by if a woman made more money. I at one point believed that Black men were, into snow beckies more, or didn't like natural hair. They preferred straight weaves or colorism texture. Like, I believed all that BS, all of it. And it wasn't until I actually found out it was all wrong that I found out it was all wrong. So, but that's what I'm saying. It's like the default setting for some of the stuff is BFF. Like, it's literally like, that is unfortunately the default setting when it comes to these conversations is BFF, because it's gone on for so long and it's been unchecked. And it's gone on for so long and been unaddressed. It's BFF. Literally. But this is how we're talking about it. Hashtag no judgment. It's like, I'm not going to judge somebody for something they actually believed at one point. I understand where it's coming from. I think it's coming from a generations of misinformation. But I think when you know better, you do better. That's why we're having this conversation. But no, I'm sorry. Men are not, they're not intimidated. They're just sometimes, and here's another thing ladies need to hear too. No, sometimes it's not that he's intimidated. It's just, he's not interested. And that's okay too. Like, men don't owe women attention. Like, just because a woman goes out of her way to put on her makeup or her pretty dress or hair doesn't mean that every man that you find attractive owes you attention. Like, it doesn't. And I think sometimes ladies need to know too that it's not always that he's so intimidated or that you're so magnanimously beautiful that he just can't stand to look your way because your beauty just scares him and makes him want to faint. He could just actually be uninterested, or he could be unavailable, right? Like, and that's fine. That's fine. And also, there are times when a woman is absolutely beautiful and gorgeous, and the man she's interested in just isn't like her type. Or like the man that she's interested in, like, he doesn't like her in that way. Like, he has a different type than her beauty. And that's fine too. It doesn't mean she's any less beautiful. It doesn't mean that she's any less desirable per se. It just means a man that she may be interested in may not be interested in her back for whatever reason. And that's fine too. Because I'm like, it's really hard. I think it is hard for women to conceptualize a world in which there are men out there who just say no. And specifically that there are men out there who they like that don't like them back. That's really hard for some reason. That's really hard for like women to accept, but it happens. But it doesn't make you any less of a woman if that happens to you. It doesn't. It just means that you're human and not everybody likes everybody. That's fine. Okay.
If a guy meets you and he sees that you have a bachelor's degree, you have a master's degree, you have a condo, you have everything that you need, he may be tempted to ask, what can I do for you? How can I help you if you already have everything? That's some of the things that I've heard from people. That doesn't mean don't go to school. That doesn't mean don't have a career, but it's just something to think about. Listen to what else they say.
And it's a Black girl.
Llke Ashford is a chemist for a pharmaceutical company. Now that she's 34, she's lowered the bar when it comes to height requirements.
I don't have a certain criteria, like if you're not 6'5", and I used to, but then as I got older, I said, okay, well, maybe if you're 6'3", 6'2", 6'1", okay, maybe we can see eye to eye. I kind of have certain standards that I hold myself to, and I don't feel like I should have to settle on those.
Okay. And then there's things like this. Now, again, this still was 15 years ago. I don't know. All of these women could be married today as far.
Why are Black women always so pressed about not settling? Why is that such a bad thing? I've really thought about that. Like, we hear, and maybe it's because it's just something we hear, like, don't settle, don't settle, don't settle, don't settle. Like, but like, what is that? Like, what is this idea that every Black woman is just this like queen, mother goddess and she only deserves the tip of the top highest value other king god. Like I don't like, what is that? Like, why is there such a fear of settling? Because I'm like, water seeks its own level. Like, why is it bad to be with somebody who's average? Why is that bad? I'm really curious. And I've thought about that for some time. Like, at what point did being average not become okay? Like, when did it become bad to be an average woman or an average man? Because for generations and generations, that's what people did. Average people married average people. So like, when did that become like off code? Like, when did a woman getting with an average man and then having an average wedding and an average life and an average family become undesirable and become an insult? At what point? That's what our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, that's what they did. So why is that so bad? And you know, the other thing that's so fascinating to me about these conversations is that many of the women that I hear talking about not wanting to settle never consider the fact that they themselves are average. It can't be that all of their working an average job. Like in this sitcom, they talk about people who, yeah, they're doing cool. Maybe you went to college and got a degree and got a nice job in the office. That's great. I'm in an office right now, right? And that's great. So there's no hashtag no judgment. But like, it's not like you're like saving the world. You know what I mean? Or you're not an Olympic gold medalist. You know what I mean? Like, you're not doing something that is world renowned. You have a nice job. You've done well for yourself. Great. But you're average. So we're in this documentary, we're listening to average women who are doing well. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. But we're hearing average college educated women talking about not settling, never considering the fact that they themselves are average. And I think that's something to think about. Like, why is it so bad to be average? Like, when did that become a problem? What is the desire to be something other than what you are? I don't know. Okay, let's continue. Let us continue.
As far as I know, I really don't know. But at the time, they were not. And they said they were looking for someone and they wanted to get married. This type of requirement where someone has to be 6'5". First of all, most men are not. I don't even think most men are 6'2". So that's a high requirement. Now I'm assuming this woman here, maybe she's tall. She's sitting down. So I don't know. Maybe she's tall. But I think that's a bit much. I think that's a bit much. 6'5", 6'6", or whatever. I mean, come on. Those like basketball player like heights. So most men are not that height. Someone said 5'9" is the average. So there you go. Yeah. So that's going to make it harder for you.
She gets me out of bed. She gets me outside.
For the sake of having somebody, I'm willing to wait.
Like many black men, she's also open to dating outside her race. In fact, in the past decade, the number of black women entering interracial marriage has more than doubled.
In fact, last night, I was at a restaurant, had a great conversation with this Caucasian gentleman. I mean, we were vibing, we were clicking. I'm thinking, he's gonna ask me my number. White men never ask my number. And he was like, all right, well, great conversation. You know, maybe I'll see you around. I was thinking, what happened?
For his.
No.
We're maybe not as coveted as black men in society.
Melinda Watson is a 28-year-old.
It's not funny. It's not. I'm sorry. I shouldn't be laughing. Because these are serious issues. And I mean, those are attractive women who, you know, I'm sure they have good personalities and it seems like they're able to take care of themselves. But again, this is just all a reflection of a acculturation that's happened over the last few decades. Now, I saw one of the comments in there. I can understand a college educated woman wanting a college educated man. And again, I don't see anything wrong with that. I don't see anything wrong inherently with the person having their own standards or they're having their own desires. Nothing wrong with that. If you're a woman, you can desire to be with a 6'7" man all you want. Not going to judge your desires. My thing is the market decides. And I think another thing that we have to consider is if you're a college educated woman who wants a college educated man, what does a college educated man want? And that's where a lot of ladies exit the room. They exit stage left. They leave completely. They don't know how to answer that. They just kind of assume that the market was on their terms that the dating was oftentimes on their terms, and they forget that men are also themselves looking for something. And so if you're a college educated woman, why is it that men of your class and of your ranking aren't addressing you? That may be a really hard question, maybe a really uncomfortable question, but maybe a really good one to consider. Because then what you might actually find out is maybe you seem unapproachable. Maybe those guys see you as a little cocky. Maybe those guys consider, like, you know what I mean? Like, if you actually start to ask those questions, you might be shocked at that results. But I think a more appropriate question is, if you are a woman who wants a college educated man, why aren't the college educated men coming up to you? Particularly if you're in college, if you're around them, why isn't that happening? Do you even make yourself available? How do you make yourself available to that? Why aren't they choosing you if that's what you want? Really, it may be really hard, but if you can actually honestly get to the root, or if you can get to the answer, then I think that's when change can really happen. Change can really happen when there's truth. The truth sets people free, it really does. But one of the reasons these kind of conversations go in cycles is because we haven't gotten to the truth. Truly. What's going on, Dr. Steele? Good to see you. It's been a minute. Good to see you. Okay, let's continue. Attitude is yes. People, some ladies get in their high horses because they work hard. You work hard when you go. You work hard when you go into school. You do. But some can get in their high horse and that can become a deterrent. They're not as humble, or they don't want to. They did all that hard work. They did all that hard work to think and to come up with their own ideas and to be reflective and to do these powerful things. They don't want to do that and then all of a sudden come home and then still let a man lead or still allow him to be a leader. And they don't want that. They want a co-partnership. They want a co-union. They want to, that could be a reason. Because maybe these college educated men still actually want women who are more traditionally minded. And college does not cultivate traditionally minded women. Or put another way, college does not cultivate marriage-minded women. College tends to nurture a more of a feminist independence ideology. And that may not be something that even college educated men inherently want. Okay, I think we're almost done here, guys. I think we're getting there.
Payroll specialist. She hasn't had an exclusive relationship since college.
I just feel that there's a lot of taboo associated with dating Black women because I don't think they're necessarily going to want to take us home to see mama.
The consensus in this group was that their preference is to marry a Black man. It's not that they can't find one to date. The issue in many cases is exclusivity.
You meet these great guys, you have good relationship, good rapport, and then it's almost like, I'm going to keep you around, and hopefully when I'm ready to settle down, you'll be there.
That's the back pocket.
The back pocket thing. So then I would say that maybe that's not a good guy. I don't know. Like, look, we all know out there, those of us that have been dating or have, dated in the past. Yeah, there are going to be some people that you date that are going to be committed and are going to want that. And there's going to be some people that you may go on a date with or whatever that don't want that. But what was kind of weird to me is that she said, well, he's a great guy, but he said, I'm going to keep you in my back pocket. I'm like, because I feel like that tends to be a little bit more obvious. I don't know. Like, look, we all know out there, those of us that have been dating or have, dated in the past. Yeah, there are going to be some people that you date that are going to be committed and are going to want that. And there's going to be some people that you may go on a date with or whatever that don't want that. But what was kind of weird to me is that she said, well, he's a great guy, but he said, I'm going to keep you in my back pocket. I'm like, because I feel like that tends to be a little bit more obvious from the get-go. Yeah. From me. So again, this topic is brought back up into the spotlight again. And I just think that there's a lot of finger pointing. It's Black women's fault, it's Black men's fault, But when you look at the numbers just aren't there. The math just isn't there. Another thing I noticed too is that they brought up the part about interracial dating. I do remember this as well from.
Well, it's funny because the numbers, and I don't know, maybe she really didn't mean it. Maybe it wasn't intentional, but certainly the way the numbers were portrayed, we're saying the numbers aren't there still points to it's Black men's fault. Blame Jermaine. It's Jermaine's fault. Like that's what the numbers speak to when we use that kind of rhetoric. But okay, let me continue. I think we're almost getting to the finish line.
College, when I was in undergrad, it did seem like guys tended to be just more open in general. It seemed like guys tend to be a little bit more open about dating different types of women, right? Whereas the women tended to be a little bit more, no, like this is my type, this is what I want, like, etc. And I don't really know like how to fix all of that because like I really do feel like it's a math issue. I feel like it's a numbers issue. And I feel like in order to fully fix that, you have to fix the numbers. Because if the numbers aren't there, then no, there isn't going to be a black guy for every black woman because the numbers don't show that. And then the reality is not everybody wants to get married. Believe it or not, some women, and I know personally, told me they never want to get married. I know guys that said they never want to get married. And I think, you know,
believe it or not, I'm like, are you kidding me? That's like standard culture. I mean, it's not breaking news. Breaking news, women don't want to get married. Like what? Like we've been hearing this for how many decades now? So that's not surprising to me at all. Yeah, the sky is blue.
Each to his own. If that's what they don't want, that's what they don't want. But what I find interesting is that once again, this topic is back up in the news. And sometimes I wonder, what is the goal of the media? Why do they keep bringing this up every couple of years? The video I just showed you is from 15 years ago. This isn't the second time it's been brought up after this. It's been brought up before. So why does the media keep bringing it up?
Let me say this. The media didn't bring up anything. With respect to me, no media news source came to me and said, hey, Shay, can you sit here and say, black men are gay, black men are in prison, black men, like, nobody slid into my DMs and told me to lie on black men. And that's not what I did. Actually, quite the opposite. What I said went against the narrative. What I said was like, hey, it's not that black men are snow bunnied, that they are locked up. Okay. Or that they're sitting over here with the rainbow flag. That's not what's going on. That's not the fullness of what's going on. Yeah, some of that's true in some cases, but that's not the fullness. We have to look at what's going on with black women. We cannot assume that the black American family didn't create husbands, but somehow all black women were raised to be marriage material. That's not how this works. So what I said went against the media. So I don't know what the media had to do with this situation. Now, if we want to react to what Miss Michelle Obama said, that's what I was reacting to initially. If you guys went back and saw the short, because this whole conversation started from a short that I did where I was reacting to Michelle Obama's take on inauguration and explicitly what she was implying about marriage. That's how this whole thing got started. But ain't no media news outlet has, like I said, slid in my DMs or sent me an email or anything. Nothing. I ain't got no support. I mean, listen, do you guys really think that media's gonna sit up here and promote some of the things that I've said, at least in this live? Do you really think there's gonna be an article in New York Times that says, where are the marriageable black women at? Where are they at? Are we going to see a article in Washington Post that says, hey, is it possible that black women aren't trained to be wives? What percentage of black women have good health? What percentage of black women don't have kids out of wedlock? What percentage of black women actually respect and value marriage? What percent, is there going to be an article that we see posted in New York Post, okay, Washington, Madame Noir, The Root? Are we going to see articles that are asking where are the marriage-minded and the marriageable black women at? Right. So can't nobody say that I'm a media shield. You can say many things, but one thing you can't say is that media is sitting up here promoting what I got, is pushing what it is that I'm sharing. No, that is not the case, okay? That ain't the case. They don't want to hear that because they don't want to piss up their subscribers. They don't, because it's more profitable. It's actually more profitable to appeal to women because women tend to be more consumers. I know this because I also worked in marketing. Before I started doing my own thing, but I worked in agencies. I was there in meetings where we literally sat down and created a profile of our primary consumer, our ideal customer. And those ideal customers were almost always exclusively women. Now, the age may have varied, the education route, the ethnicity, that may have varied. But every agency that I've worked with, or every company that I've worked with, and we were coming up with marketing campaigns and we were creating the ideal customer, it was a woman, because women tend to be consumers. That's what I'm saying. And like these media outlets know that. They know who they're targeting, who they're connecting with. So what I'm saying is from the heart. It's things that I actually believe or things that I'm convicted of. Because if I just wanted to say it to be paid by media, or if I was being persuaded by media, I would actually be speaking more in favor of women. Or that's to say, I wouldn't be laying a critical lens on women. Because here's the thing, this to me is not about men versus women. That's not the kind of environment that I'm trying to cultivate, because I'm married. I believe in marriage. I want to promote marriage. I want to see more happy marriages. This is why I do relationship coaching. This is why I continue to have these conversations. Like I still believe in love, and I think it's valuable. But I understand that the barriers to having success in love are lies and misinformation, propaganda, and all of these isms that happen. And so that's why I talk about this stuff. But I'm saying if it was strictly a money grab, or if it was something that was being promoted by media, at least as far as I'm concerned, then I would be actually actively lying to women. That would be the best media strategy out there, was for me to lie to women, or at least stroke their ego a lot, versus being like, maybe we're not perfect. Maybe there's things that we actually do that really harm us. And I'm saying this as someone who's been there and understands, because I was told the same thing, you know? So let me see. I think that might be it of that video. I think that's it. Let me see.
Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.
Okay. Yeah, so that was it. So that was it, guys. I got to the end. Man, I'm proud of myself. I keep on forgetting to get those little sound effects, because that makes the live so much more. Makes the live so much more interactive. I had it at one point, and then everything got lost, and then I didn't add it. But shout out to you guys for hanging out, and shout out to you guys for hanging with me. I'm curious what your thoughts are up to this point about this whole conversation. Shout out to you. Also, my 2 cents with the $9.99. It says, but what's even crazier is, as a man, imagine arguing and fighting to get the mother to stop teaching their. Oh wait, you already said that. Okay, just one. If that's so true, then why do Black women have so many babies outside of Black men if they're so loyal to Black? Right, I talked about this, so you may have missed that point. Where I was like, the whole Black, the whole Black women are undyingly loyal. Like, it's completely debunked. I broke this down in details about 2 years ago. I might re-premiere that too, because I know some of you guys are new to my channel and you haven't seen my content. I also recognize some of you guys who've been following me for years still don't always see my content, just because the algorithm does its own thing. But I broke down in detail and I really debunked the whole Black female loyalty thing. Like, that Black women are just so inherently loyal, like, to a default, as if Black women are beating white men off and beating off Asian men, and like just trying to run away from all these men who are giving them proposals, all these high value white men, all these high value Asian men who are trying to wife them up and give them money and a legacy and power. And Black women are saying, no, rich white men, I can't accept your love. No, rich white men, I can't accept your legacy. No, rich white men, I can't accept your trust fund. I have to hold on for the Black man. Like, nobody believes that. Like, that's not happening. No. You know what? I didn't mean I see that comment. I didn't mean it like that. Y'all got a dirty mind. So it is not that Black women are turning white men down at large, in mass, trying to hold on for a Black man to get it together. No. It's that, as women, you kind of have to Saint Seer stuff. You have to see what a name like Saint Seer. You're supposed to see the saintly stuff. You ain't supposed to see the other stuff. No. It's that. It's just options. It's just options. And like I said, some just really aren't interested. Like, just like, I've broken this down in so many different times. I hate to belabor the point. I've provided stats, I provided studies, I provided anecdotal evidence and also statistical evidence. We've gone over book. Like, I've broken down in detail. And even if you don't believe me, look at the marriage stats. Like I said, white men have literally had access to Black women since the beginning of this nation. And so if they wanted Black women, they would have them. And many of them are. They're just not doing so with respect to marriage and legacy. And right. And again, I'm speaking in general, because even Sabby Sabs, she's married to a white man, So of course we understand that there are exceptions and that still happens, but I'm just saying, by and large, we understand that there are cultural reasons to this that stem far beyond Black women just turning all these white men down who want them. Like that's maybe that's something we tell ourselves. And listen, maybe there are highly, highly, highly gorgeous women out there who have that experience. Okay. But even the most beautiful Black woman, like I said, there's still Black men out there who are like, they still want kids who look like them. Or they just simply don't want to have to go with the backlash or the fallout they're going to get from bringing somebody home that is not accepted in their family. Like that happens too. Like there are people out there who actually may really like Black women or may really have their preference, but they feel tied to the culture they're a part of and don't want to deal with all of the chaos that's going to come from them stepping outside of their family's tradition. That happens too, especially when there's money and wealth and legacy involved. Whole other thing. So I think that's what I have. Anyways, guys, like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate you guys for hanging out with me. I'm really curious what you guys think about this whole, what you just thought about this whole situation. Not in a situation, but this whole conversation. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts, your feedback. So be sure to leave it down in the comment section. I'm trying to think if I have anything else I need to add. I got through its entirety. If you guys want to go over and look through some of the stats, I break it down in detail in the live that I did earlier today. So you guys can look through that if you guys want to get really deep into actually analyzing some of the different ideas, what's going on with Black men in prison, what's going on with Black women in prison, what's going on with Black men and women with respect to queerness, what's going on with, the relationships, interracial, all of that. I've broken it down. So you can go check that out if you haven't. And thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you so much for listening. And we will talk later. Also, be sure, if you haven't already, pick up your copy of It's Not Your Main's Fault. I'd love to hear your guys' feedback. And thanks for hanging out. Bye.
It's a man's fault, let the whole world see. Black kings rising high in our own destiny. Moving through the storm, proud and bold we stand. Shining like gold, love's in command.
Misandry tried to put him down with a Misandry vibe, but Jermaine flipped the script, now watch him thrive. In a classroom of doubters, his spirit never fell. Every harsh word turned to beats that made him rebel. Then came the neighborhood dropping wisdom like a rhyme. Challenged that old Misandry said, not on my time. With his wife Mia Swahili for strength and grace by his side. They set the record straight with humor and pride. In the dating game and gender wars where opinions clash and play, Jermaine and his crew keep it smooth, dancing hate away from awkward first dates to the battle of the hearts. They flip the script with funky vibes and soulful art. Talk, let them squabble, we're too fly to be confined. Every snide remark just fuels the fire of our mind. With laughter as our armor and pride, our battle cry. Black men rise above it all, reaching up into the sky.
Fall, let the whole world see. Black kings rising high in our own destiny. Moving through the storm, proud and bold we stand. Shining like gold, love's in command.
Misandry tried to put him down with her Misandry vibe, but Jermaine flipped the script, now watch him thrive. In a classroom of doubters, his spirit never fell. Every harsh word turned to beats that made him rebel. Then came the neighborhood dropping wisdom like a rhyme. Challenged that old Misandry said, not on my time. With his wife Mia Swahili for strength and grace by his side. They set the record straight with humor and pride. Game and gender wars where opinions clash and play. Jermaine and his crew keep it smooth, dancing hate away from awkward first dates to the battle of the hearts. They flip the script with funky vibes and soulful art. Talk, let them squabble, we're too fly to be confined. Every snide remark just fuels the fire of our mind. With laughter as our armor and pride, our battle cry. Black men rise above it all, reaching up to the sky.
Fall, let the whole world see. Black kings rising high in our own destiny. Moving through the storm, proud and bold we stand. Shining like gold, love's in command.
Let them talk, let them squabble, we're too fly to be confined. Every snide remark just fuels the fire of our mind. With laughter as our armor and pride, our battle cry. Black men rise above it all, reaching up to the sky.
Rain fall, let the whole world see.